Chapter 401. Back at the northern desert, Luli began closed-door cultivation. He had been diligent in cultivation. What was more, everyone else was too busy. It was not good for him to be too carefree by himself. He would be criticized. He told Madame Yen to sort out the national treasury. The heaven-frigid kingdom and the heaven-cold kingdom were destroyed and many mystical materials were seized. The two kingdoms had stored many good things over the years. Luli planned to ask Mingyu to sell the rest of the items to the Chamber of Commerce of Delicacy after sorting them out. Then, he would buy some mystical materials for reaching the Noble Lord realm and cultivating at the Noble Lord realm. The northern desert was a barren land with few rare mystical materials. The Central Plains was a vast land with abundant resources. With enough Xian crystals, mystical materials for Noble Lord realm and even human sovereign realm could be bought. Bai Xiaoshuang didn't go back. She stayed to help Madame Yen. She would spend some time with Lu Feixue and cultivate occasionally. Clearly, this was Madame Yan's idea. Madame Yen knew Lu Feixue valued Lu Feixue. As long as Lu Feixue could be taken care of, the marriage between Bai Xiaoshuang and Lu Li could be settled. At the same time, Madame Yen sent someone to the small world to look for Bai Qiuxue. Bai Qiuxue was closer to Lu Li. If one of them could marry Lu Li, the status of the Bai family would be secured. Zilian came as well. Zi Huanxiao was a smart man. Even if Zi Huanxiao didn't bring it up, the patriarchs of the Zi family would. Marriage was important for a family. Lu Li valued friendship. Once the marriage was established, not only could the Zi family keep its current interests, but it could also grow stronger. Unfortunately, Lu Li was in closed-door cultivation, so neither Bai Xiaoshuang nor Zilian could see him. They were not disappointed. As a matter of fact, they didn't like the relationship between family interests and friendship. They preferred freedom. If it was not destined, they wouldn't force it. When Lu Li teleported to the Central Plains from the Heaven Martial City, Zi Huanxiao had asked Zilian to try to go with Lu Li. In the end, Zilian gave up. As time went by, the northern desert became more and more stable. Yu Huashan led his army and went on a rampage. More families were wiped out. Of course, only Yu Huashan knew how many of those families were rebels and how many were killed by mistake. Yu Huashan was famous at the northern desert now. His nickname was Butcher Yu. His fame was second only to Lu Li. Too many people died in his hand. Warriors of the entire northern desert were scared out of their wits by him. 1 month later, the northern desert was completely peaceful. No more people dared to make trouble. No more cities dared to make trouble. Everything was on the right track under Madame Yan's arrangement. Most of the mines, spirit mountains, and herb fields had been taken over, and a large amount of spirit materials had already been sent into the national treasury. Mingyu had already gone to the Ling Long Merchant Association twice. The attitude of the Ling Long Merchant Association was very good. Just like what Jiang Hong had said, they would sell their goods according to the Central Continent's market price, and all purchases would be 20% off. Lu Li came out from closed-door cultivation after a month. His Xian energy had been replenished and his soul pond had grown larger. He came out of seclusion not because he was tired from cultivating, but because he received a piece of news. Something happened to autumn snow. A month ago, Madame Yen sent someone to that small world, but they couldn't find Bai Qiuxue after searching the entire small world. There were no powerful green dwarfs in that small world. Autumn snow had a fate wheel and she could fly up at any time. She was also wearing a heaven-grade armor. Theoretically speaking, she should be fine. Madame Yen was not worried about her. There had been patriarchs of the Bai family guarding outside the small world. Bai Qiuxue never came out and no remains were found. They captured some green dwarfs and asked them, but they didn't hear that Bai Qiuxue was killed. No body, and no one could be found. That meant she was missing. When the messenger came back with the news, Madame Yen became anxious. She sent Dao Ling in to look for Bai Qiuxue. Then she went to Lu Li. Bai Qiuxue was the future of the Bai family. Madame Yen would not allow anything to happen to her. Lu Li came out as soon as he got the news. He took Yi Cha and Mingyu with him. At the same time, he sent a message to Yu Huashan to teleport to the Heaven Prison City. The three noble Lord Realm warriors each had their own strengths, so they could have absolute control over the small world. Lu Li also asked all the Fate-Wheel Realm warriors of the Bai family to stay at the Thousand Island Lake to go to the small world. The more people there were, the easier it would be to find Bai Qiuxue. There was a teleportation formation built at the Heaven Frigid Kingdom that led directly to the Heaven Prison City. Madame Yen didn't go to the Ling Empress City. Bai Xiaoshuang and Zilian went with her. Bai Xiaoshuang was worried about Bai Qiuxue and Zilian wanted to go with Lu Li to gain experience. Let's go. Yu Huashan had been waiting for orders since they arrived at the Heaven Prison City. Lu Li waved his hand and Yu Huashan sent out the iron-armored ship. They boarded it. The entrance to the small world of green dwarfs was thousands of miles to the west of the Heaven Prison Island. It was named the Area of Demons by the Thousand Island Lake. There were often whirlwinds and powerful sea beasts. Regular fishermen would die for sure if they were to go there. Last time, Mingyu said there was a place of the Thousand Island Lake that often had tornadoes. He was talking about this area. The entrance to the small world was at the bottom of the lake. The frequent occurrence of tornadoes here must have something to do with the entrance to the small world. The iron-armored ship belonged to the Lu family. It was fast. In just 4 hours they had arrived at the area. It is strange. Lu Li looked into the sky from the distance. It was so gloomy. The lake water was surging and the color of the water was darker. They could tell it was dangerous before they got closer. Of course, the danger was only for the average people. Lu Li and the others were all powerful, and there were 3 warriors of the noble Lord Realm with them. Naturally, they would be fine. The iron-armored ship flew into the area of demons. Lu Li squinted. He saw a tornado over there, and there was a huge whirlpool under the tornado. There would be the qi and energy of Xian beasts coming from the area around the whirlpool. Young master, Mingyu explained, the entrance to the small world of green dwarfs is right under the whirlpool. The tornado has not dispersed yet. It will be dangerous to get closer. How about we wait a bit longer? What are you afraid of? This tornado was much smaller than the one they saw in the sea last time, and they were going into the lake. Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Let's go. Yu Huashan, lead the way. Clan leader Yi, protect Bai Xiaoshuang and Zilian. Mingyu, bring up the rear." Lu Li had given his order. They didn't say anything else. They put away the iron-armored ship and flew down to the lake. Moo, from the lake came some muffled bellows. The beasts in the lake moved. Yu Huashan dived in like a dragon. He drew out his saber and shot out Xianqi. Mingyu took actions as well. He killed the Xian beasts in the shape of sea lions easily. The warriors of the Thousand Island Lake hadn't arrived yet. Lu Li didn't want to wait for them. They dived down to the bottom of the lake. From the distance they saw a huge whirlpool rolling up the water. They were moving towards the whirlpool uncontrollably. Yu Huashan and the others were not afraid. They rushed into the whirlpool at the bottom of the lake and went down along with the whirlpool. Bai Xiaoshuang and Zilian realized they were losing control of their bodies. They hurried to grab Lu Li. They held on to Lu Li's arms and their bodies were close to him. Lu Li's heart skipped a beat. In the water, there was no difference whether they were wearing clothes or not. The whirlpool was spinning faster and faster. They were all sucked into a dark tunnel. After spinning for a long time, they felt they were falling from the sky. Their eyes lit up as they arrived at a strange small world. Whoosh, whoosh, before Lu Li had the time to look around, he suddenly saw many green dwarfs swarming in from all directions. They were everywhere, like a swarm of locusts. There was no end to them. Something is wrong. Yu Huashan and Mingyu looked at each other. Both felt something was wrong. It was normal for the green dwarfs to attack when they entered the small world. But there were so many of them and they were clearly organized. This was a big problem. Chapter 402. The world of green dwarfs was discovered by a family of the Thousand Island Lake by accident. Back then, there were many powerful green dwarfs. The Old Man of Heaven prison brought by she and the others to kill the powerful green dwarfs and took all the mystical materials. After that, the Old Man of Heaven prison left it alone. The Bai family would come here every once in a while to clean up the powerful green dwarf. Therefore, many warriors of the Thousand Island Lake had come here before. But most of them were here for training as there were not many mystical materials left. Nobody dared to catch the green dwarfs to sell. If the Bai family found out, they would be in big trouble. Mingyu had come here a few times to gain experience, so he was very clear about the situation in the green dwarf world. There were many green dwarfs here, but they were scattered. They had their own way of doing things and formed their own tribes. Close to 100 tribes were scattered in the small world. They had never had a country, nor did they have any experts who had a strong rallying power to command all the big tribes. Yu Huashan had heard about the situation here. The green dwarfs were not very intelligent and they didn't have a human civilization. They were more like primitive humans in the primitive times. Therefore, Mingyu and Yu Huashan were surprised to see so many green dwarfs showing up in a well-organized way. Lu Li reacted quickly. He released his fate wheel at once and grabbed Zilian and Bai Xiaoshuang. Yi Cha and the others released their beads of life and looked down coldly. Lu Li, how come your fate wheel is like this? Bai Xiaoshuang looked at the silver fate wheel under Lu Li's feet and the dragon patterns on it with curiosity. Zilian had noticed it a long time ago, and she was also surprised. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the green dwarfs down below made some strange noises. All the green dwarfs nearby took out bone spurs from their backs and threw them into midair. Clearly, the bone spurs were treasures unique to the green dwarf. They were fast and pierced through the air, making some shrill noises. It was a magnificent scene. It was suffocating as if thousands of arrows were fired at the same time. This was nothing for them. Lu Li and the others didn't even move. Ming Yu's bead of life glowed as he released force. The space within a radius of more than 300 feet was suppressed. All the bone spurs were immobilized. Yu Huashan, drive the green dwarfs away. Lu Li waved his hand and Yu Huashan made his move. The bloodline mark on his neck glowed and sparks flew out. Mingyu was very cooperative. When the momentum was weakened, the spark instantly lit up the prairie. Woo woo, many green dwarfs were hit by the sparks and immediately howled in pain, rolling on the ground. Many people were hit in the chest by the sparks, and a large hole was burned in their bodies. Some of the green dwarfs were shot in the head and died instantly. An adult green dwarf could match a warrior of the Soul Pond realm. The stronger ones could match a warrior of the Fate Wheel realm. The most powerful ones could only match a warrior of the Eternal realm. That was why the Old Man of Heaven prison could sweep across the entire world of green dwarf. Even though there were many green dwarfs on the ground, none of them was a powerful warrior. They were only as powerful as warriors of the Soul Pond realm. Even Lu Li could defeat them, let alone Yu Huashan, Ming Yu and Yi Cha. Yu Huashan's sparks' profound meaning was the most effective way to deal with an army. Sparks flew everywhere. Many green dwarfs were injured or killed. In the time for just a dozen breaths, the ground had turned into hell. There were thousands of green dwarfs on the ground. After Yu Huashan slaughtered for a while, more than 1,000 of them had been injured or killed. The rest of the green dwarfs were scared. Their green eyes were filled with terror. However, this time, none of the green dwarfs left, which surprised Yu Huashan and Mingyu. Previously, when Mingyu came in, the green dwarfs would run away as soon as they sensed his qi and energy. This time, not only did they not run away, they were going to fight to the death? What is it? Lu Li saw the confusion in Mingyu's eyes and asked. Mingyu flew over to explain. Luli waved his hand and said, "Keep on killing until they are afraid." These were alien races, not humans. For Luli, they were no different from Xian beasts. Since these dwarf monsters were not afraid of death, Luli would not show any mercy. Bang 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 after the time for more than a dozen breaths, Yuhuashan had killed another 1 or 2,000 green dwarfs. From the distance came a muffled sound of drums. The green dwarfs that were charging towards them and throwing out bone spikes immediately fled. They turned into streaks of ghostly shadows and fled in all directions. Drums! A glint of coldness rose in Lu Li's eyes. He looked at Yi Cha, who came to his senses. He rushed toward the source of the drums in a gust of wind. The green dwarfs are really under someone's control. Mingyu frowned. He could not figure out who could control the green dwarf. Could it be that a powerful warrior had sneaked into the small world and controlled all the green dwarfs? Yuhuashan, go around and have a look as well. Lu Li waved his hand. Yuhuashan rushed toward a direction as fast as he could. Lu Li and the others flew to a small hill nearby and waited quietly. The time for 1 incense stick to burn, 2 incense sticks to burn, 3 incense sticks to burn. What surprised Lu Li and the others was that Yi Cha and Yuhuashan hadn't come back after such a long time. They were so fast. They should have returned by now whether they had gained anything or not. Whoosh! After the time for 1 incense stick to burn, there came a gust of wind. Yi Cha finally came back. He cupped his fists and said, "Young master, I found a strange race. But they are fast and good at hiding. They suddenly disappeared from underground. I didn't dare to go too far." Lu Li and Mingyu were surprised. The Cyan Phoenix race was the fastest race of the Central Plains. Yi Cha was as fast as a human sovereign realm warrior. How could there be a strange race that could escape from Yi Cha? What kind of race? There are only green dwarfs in the small world. Bai Xiaoshuang was worried. Was Bai Qiushue's disappearance related to the mysterious race? They look like humans, but they are small. They have yellow skin and yellow scales on their hands and feet. Their hands are like eagle claws. Their eyes glowed yellow and their ears are pointy, Yi Cha described. None of them had ever heard of such a thing. While Lu Li was thinking, Yuhuashan flew back from the distance. He came closer and said with a frown, "Young master, I found 2 strange people. But as soon as I got close, they disappeared into the ground. I could not catch up with them. Not even Yuhuashan could catch up with them. If the strange race they encountered was not at a high realm, then their speed would be horrifying. They might not be weaker than the Cyan Phoenix race." Lu Li became cautious. He looked at Bai Xiaoshuang and asked, "Didn't Bai Ling come in? Where are the warriors of the Bai family that came in?" "I don't know." Bai Xiaoshuang shook her head and said, "Uncle Ling did come in, but it is a big place. It will take him several days to go around the entire place." Lu Li thought about it and said, "Yuhuashan, find an exit and get people in. Get all the warriors under clan leader Yi here. Also, get Zi Huanxiao and all the noble Lord Realm warriors here. Get more than 100 warriors of the Eternal Realm and thousands of warriors of the Fate Wheel Realm. We must find Bai Qiushue even if we have to dig 3 feet underground." Chapter 403. The strange race that came out of nowhere was controlling the green dwarfs in the small world. Lu Li, who had absolute control over the world of green dwarfs, didn't dare to take any rash actions. He decided to wait for reinforcements. Yuhuashan went out. Lu Li, Mingyu, Zilian and Bai Xiaoshuang found a mountain nearby to camp. The mountain was steep. From the top, they could see everything. If a large group of enemies were to come, they could find them easily. Mingyu was using his psychic power at all times. Not even an ant could get close. Yi Cha wandered around nearby to see if he could find some clues or some useful information. There was no day or night in this small world. The sky was dark red and the xianqi was thin. This place was not suitable for people to cultivate or live. There were few trees and most of the trees here were black bark trees without leaves. Bai Xiaoshuang was restless. Zilian comforted her while Lu Li sat with a gloomy face. Mingyu sat with his legs crossed with his eyes closed. He used his psychic power to check the surroundings, especially underground. That strange race could drill underground and it was fast. Time flew by. Half a day had passed. Yi Cha came back twice without finding anything. It was quiet here. Not a single green dwarf came out and nothing was happening underground. Clan leader Yi. Lu Li gave him a jade talisman of warning and said, "Expand your search range. If you can capture a strange race, we will crush the jade talisman as soon as we are in danger." Young master, this. Yi Cha was wearing the illusion mask so no one could see his expression. But he was worried. Lu Li waved his hand with determination. Yi Cha had to go and check. "Lu Li, how about we let clan leader Yi take me there? I can sense my sister's soul. If she is 30 miles away from me, I can tell where she is." Bai Xiaoshuang was restless. Lu Li shook his head and said, "No, you cannot go anywhere. You must stay with me." Bai Xiaoshuang was stubborn and only Lu Li could keep her in check. He was worried that Bai Xiaoshuang would go with Yi Cha. Lu Li himself was powerful and Mingyu had force. If anything happened, they could hold on for a while until Yi Cha came back. They sat there in boredom, eating food when they were hungry and drinking water when they were thirsty. Yu Huashan went out to gather troops. It was fast for him to come and go, but it would take time for him to gather powerful warriors and troops. It would take him at least 2 days. 4 hours later, Mingyu suddenly opened his eyes and shouted, "Young master, there's a situation. Ascend." Lu Li released his fate wheel at once. He shouted to Zilian, "Release your fate wheel and bring Bai Xiaoshuang up. Don't come down until I say so." Zilian nodded and released a 7-colored fate wheel. She took Bai Xiaoshuang and flew up 1,000 meters into the sky. Lu Li followed him and so did Mingyu. They looked down coldly. Bang, 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 the ground at the top of the small mountain cracked layer by layer, and then 6 yellow ghostly figures shot up. The 6 yellow shadows were fast. They were no weaker than warriors at the initial stage of the Noble Lord realm. They flew up to the sky in an instant. Suppress. Mingyu released his power, and the surrounding winds and clouds changed. A powerful pressure pressed down. The 6 yellow shadows slowed down at once, and then they fell down toward the tunnel they came out from. Mingyu's force had an effect on the 6 strange people. But clearly, the 6 of them could still break free. Otherwise, they wouldn't have fallen down, but would be frozen in midair. "Mingyu, capture them alive!" Lu Li shouted. It was not easy for these strange races to come out. Of course, they must find a way to interrogate one. Mingyu thought so as well. His body shot downwards, and his aura pressed down once again. The speed of the 6 people who were rushing towards the tunnel was greatly reduced. Whoosh! Mingyu unsheathed the long sword on his back and fiercely stabbed downwards. The 2 yellow men were stabbed and their bodies exploded instantly. Their defense was pitifully weak. With Mingyu's attack, the pressure from the shore was naturally reduced, allowing the remaining 4 to rush into the tunnel. How could Mingyu let them go? Mingyu released his force again to slow them down. This time, Mingyu didn't attack. He rushed down, planning to cripple 1 or 2 of them and take them down. More than 300 feet, 100 feet, 30 feet. Mingyu's eyes glowed brighter and brighter. He stabbed forward with his sword. This time, Mingyu controlled his power and accuracy. He hit the 4 yellow people's hands and feet. The 4 people's hands and feet exploded. They had just rushed into the tunnel, but they couldn't run anymore. Good! Mingyu heaved a sigh of relief, but in the next second, his eyes narrowed. His body, which was originally charging downwards, immediately retreated to the sky. Boom! The 4 yellow men in the cave lit up with yellow light, and then exploded like 4 bombs. Mud and stones flew in all directions, and the peak of the mountain was completely blown apart. Smoke and dust billowed up, and the sound was earth-shaking. What a shame! Mingyu was angry. At the last moment, He didn't release his force to suppress the four. They had been wounded. As long as he could suppress them, they couldn't explode. Oh no! Suddenly, Mingyu's body trembled as he looked up into the sky. He was scared out of his wits when he saw a man in yellow suddenly appearing from the void and reaching toward Luli with a pair of yellowish claws. He yelled in terror, "Young master, watch out!" Actually, Mingyu didn't need to remind Luli. At that moment, Luli felt a sense of fatal danger from the depth of his soul. Without any hesitation, Luli released his dragon roar skill at once. The roar caused wind to blow up and space to tremble. The figure in midair slowed down for a bit. Clones, Luli's reflexes were fast after so many life-threatening situations. After he shouted, he released his cloning skill. He divided himself into 2 and then into 4. In the end, there were more than a dozen Luli. Blood Claw. Luli himself didn't run away. The more than a dozen Luli dashed toward the one that came out of nowhere. The hand hidden in Luli's sleeve had become a silver claw. He reached for the yellow person's head. Bang! Without any surprise, the yellow person's head was crushed. Before he died, his eyes were filled with confusion as if he was still trying to figure out which one was Luli's real body. Whoosh! Mingyu flew up against the rain of blood and stood next to Luli. Fear was still lingering in his eyes and his face was filled with terror. Phew, Luli exhaled. Without much hesitation, he crushed a jade talisman to let Yi Cha come back. If it weren't for the fact that he reacted fast enough, he would have become a dead body. What was more, it was him who was sneaking up on. If it had been Zilian or Bai Xiaoshuang who had launched the sneak attack, they would have been dead by now. Luli felt the 2 yellow claws were not as powerful as his beast claws, but they could easily crush the heads of Bai Xiaoshuang and Zilian. You can turn invisible? You know how to lure me away. That is a horrifying ability and a high intelligence. Mingyu was solemn. Just now, the yellow person was hiding next to Luli and Mingyu didn't notice it at all. It was not until the yellow person showed up and showed his killing intent that Mingyu realized. Chapter 404. Yi Cha came back quickly. In just 2 hours, he was back. After Yi Cha came back, Luli took Zilian and Bai Xiaoshuang to the exit without any hesitation. Bai Xiaoshuang didn't want to go. She begged Luli to stay for several times, but Luli pretended not to hear her. At the exit, he said, "All of you, get out. This is an order. There are no conditions. Xiaoshuang, teleport to the Ling Empress City at once and ask your aunt to send someone to find out about that strange race. I want information about this race, even if I have to go through all the historical materials. Only by knowing oneself and the enemy could one emerge victorious. Luli wouldn't be able to sleep if he couldn't find out about this race. What if this race came out of the northern desert from the small world? How many people would be assassinated?" At the same time, Luli told them to keep it a secret. Apart from Madame Yen, nobody else could know about this or else it would cause panic. The exit was under an abyss. Jumping down from the abyss would bring them back to the area of demons. Luli asked Yi Cha to send them out. There should be warriors of the Bai family outside. Luli, be careful. Luli, we will be waiting for your triumphant return. Bai Xiaoshuang and Zilian gave Luli a meaningful look before they were taken out by Yi Cha. Luli had become an emperor, but the two did not address him as emperor. That would alienate them. Luli didn't like being addressed as emperor either, so he didn't mind it. An hour later, Yi Cha came back. He didn't come out from the abyss. He came from nearby. Those that came from the outside would be teleported to near the abyss, but not from the abyss. Yi Cha nodded to Luli and said, "There are patriarchs of the Bai family out there. The army is gathering. Let's wait a bit longer." Luli sat with his legs crossed nearby. Yi Cha and Mingyu stayed close to him. They were checking with their psychic power at all times. This time, there were no more yellow people. Yu Huashan and Zi Huanxiao came in after a day with 6 or 7 warriors of the noble lord realm. The 4 patriarchs of the Cyan Phoenix race were all here, and there were more than 30 warriors of the eternal realm. "Greetings, Emperor." They got down on one knee and shouted. Lu Li waved them up and asked Zi Huanxiao, "Great General, have you heard of a strange race?" After describing the appearance of that strange race, Zi Huanxiao frowned and pondered. Then he shouted, "Zi Huanyu, go back to the Heaven Martial City immediately. There are records of all kinds of strange things happening in the northern desert in the secret history of our clan. I vaguely remember reading about this strange race." Lu Li and the others cheered up. Chief Patriarch of the Z family teleported out from the abyss. Lu Li could put his mind at ease with so many powerful warriors around him. He waved his hand and said, "Clan leader Yi, take some people with you and go and have a look. Clan leader Z, you do the same." Except for Yu Huashan and Mingyu, the others spread out to check. He had to think of a way to capture a yellow man alive and interrogate him for information. If we encounter green dwarfs, kill them all. Nobody in the northern desert knew how to search one's soul directly, but Yi Cha knew a secret skill that could extract all the information through torture. Now that the main force had not arrived in time, they could only think of a way to capture an exotic race first. The green dwarfs were not intelligent and they looked no different from monsters. As far as Lu Li could tell, they were Xian beasts. Finding Bai Qiushue was the priority right now. If the green dwarfs caused trouble, they would have to kill them all. The warriors spread out to search for the exotic races. Lu Li, Yu Huashan, Ming Yu and Bai Qiushue wandered around nearby as well. Soon, battles broke out. Every team encountered green dwarf. They began to kill the green dwarfs and search for the yellow men. Every once in a while, someone would come to Lu Li to report the news of the teams. What disappointed Lu Li was that after half a day, he didn't capture a single yellow man. Several hours later, Lu Li ran into Bai Lung. Bai Lung was brought to Lu Li with a depressed look. He had been wandering around for 2 or 3 days and encountered some yellow men. He fought many times, but he didn't get any information about Bai Qiushue. Lu Li's heart was weighed down. The only thing he felt lucky was that Bai Qiushue's jade talisman of life was not broken. This meant that she was still alive. As long as she was still alive, there was still hope. The search went on and the killing went on. More and more warriors came in. Lu Li ordered to do a thorough search and kill all the green dwarfs they encountered. Anyone that could capture one of the exotic races would be rewarded handsomely. The small world was not a large one. Lu Li had mobilized more than half of the powerful warriors above the Fate Wheel realm. There were 7 or 8,000 warriors in total. With 300 warriors in a team, they could sweep across the small world easily. The green dwarfs were suffering. They were slaughtered one after another. The small world was filled with mountains of corpses and rivers of blood. Lu Li had made up his mind. The fate of the green dwarfs had been sealed. If they could find Bai Qiushue, it would be okay. If not, the green dwarfs would be wiped out. Lu Li stayed in a small mountain in the middle of the small world. With so many people searching, it was pointless for him to bring a few people with him. He had to wait here for news. However, the warriors searched for 2 days and killed many green dwarfs. Still, there was no news. The yellow men of the exotic race showed up many times. At least more than a dozen of them were killed, but none were captured alive. On the 3rd day, Zi Huanyu came back. Madame Yen sent someone in as well. What made Lu Li feel relieved was, they finally found information about the exotic race. The Yellow Goblin race. Both the Z family and the major families of the Heaven Martial Kingdom had memories of this race. More than 7,000 years ago, this race once wreaked havoc on the northern desert. But they didn't appear at the Thousand Island Lake. Instead, they appeared at the Heaven Martial Kingdom. At that time, the Heaven Martial Kingdom didn't belong to the Z family yet. It was controlled by a 6th-rank family. The family patriarch of that family had learned a powerful, profound meaning, and was very powerful. He and his men killed all the powerful warriors of the Yellow Goblin race and destroyed the exit that the Yellow Goblin race used. Therefore, the matter didn't escalate. The Yellow Goblin race was not known by the public. According to historical records, the Yellow Goblin race was a kind of alien race that lived in a small world. The Yellow Goblin race had incredible speed. More importantly, they could go invisible and travel underground. The Yellow Goblin race was weak in defense and not strong in attack. That sixth-rank family patriarch had strong psychic power. Therefore, he could find the invisible Yellow Goblin race and kill them. That was how the Yellow Goblin race was saved. Yellow Goblin race? After Luli finished reading the information, his eyes narrowed. Combined with the information, Luli could already confirm one thing. The Yellow Goblin race was not in the small world of the Green Dwarfs, but in another one. The two small worlds might be connected by a passage. Bai Qiuxue was missing. So many people couldn't find her, but she was still alive. There was only one explanation. She had entered the small world of the Yellow Goblin race through that passage, or she had been captured by the Yellow Goblin race. Find her! Chapter 405. 5 days. Almost all the Green Dwarfs in the small world of Green Dwarfs were slaughtered. Only some family patriarchs of major tribes were left. They were kept for interrogation, or else Luli would have killed them as well. The 7,000 or 8,000 warriors searched all over the small world. Bai Qiuxue was nowhere to be found. But they did find hundreds of strange places such as caves and tunnels. Noble Lord Realm warriors led their teams to explore the caves and tunnels. They eliminated all the strange places. 3 days later, they had their eyes on 3 areas. One was an underground cave which was very deep. Zi Huanyu had been diving for thousands of miles, but he still hadn't reached the end. Zi Huanyu didn't dare to go further. He came back to report. The second place was found by the patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race. It was a quagmire which seemed bottomless as well. The patriarch dived for more than 300 miles but still couldn't reach the bottom. The third place was a cave which was filled with poisonous miasma. Not even noble Lord Realm warriors dared to go in rashly. It was dark inside and one could not see the end with psychic power. Luli led the team to the nearest cave. He asked Yicha, Zi Huanyu, Xiao Qiao and Mingyu to go down so they could look after each other. This time, they must reach the bottom of the cave. 6 hours later, the 3 of them came out. They had reached the end of the cave but found nothing. Luli waved his hand in disappointment and said, "Let's go to the second place." The cave filled with poisonous miasma was not far away from here. They arrived in half a day. Luli looked into the distance and saw the dark purple mist coming out from the cave. He could smell the pungent smell even before he got closer. Blast the cave open! Luli chose the roughest way. Many warriors of the Eternal Realm released their Xian energy and blasted the entrance of the cave into dust. Then Luli asked more warriors to blast the entire mountain open. Since they couldn't get in because of the poisonous miasma, then they would blast open a path to disperse the miasma. Boom, 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 rocks were flying around, the earth was shaking, and dust was rising. Soon, the mountain was blasted open. The cave was blasted open, and the poisonous miasma was dispersed. Noble Lord Realm warriors went in with psychic power. However, in the end, the mountain was leveled to the ground. The cave extended underground. There was no way to blast it open now. Luli looked at Yu Huashan and said, "Release your flames to protect yourself and go down." Yu Huashan didn't waste any time. He was protected by the flames, so he wouldn't be poisoned. Everyone looked at the purplish-black smoke coming out of the hole and waited quietly. 2 hours later, Yu Huashan came out. He shook his head and said, "No, there is a nest of some Xian beasts down there." The poisonous fog was spat out by the Xian beast. There was only one place left. Luli flew toward the quagmire with his team. It took them half a day to arrive. This quagmire was very big, with a circumference of 5 kilometers. A foul stench could be smelled from afar. The bottom was filled with black mud, and there were even some low-level Xian beasts hiding within. Luli waved his hand. Yi Cha left with the 4 patriarchs. Luli waited in the air with several noble Lord Realm warriors and more than 30 at the peak of the Eternal Realm. An hour later, bang, mud flew everywhere as Yi Cha and the others flew out. Yi Cha's face was covered in mud, but her eyes were filled with joy as she said, "Young master, we found it." Luli was relieved. He asked, "What is the specific situation?" "There is a slight fluctuation of inhibition formation down there. We don't dare to go in," Yi Cha reported. "Then what are we waiting for? Let's go." Luli waved his hand and was about to fly down on his fate wheel. Yu Huashan stopped him and said, "Young master, you cannot go down there. We will go in." "Move," Luli glared at them. All the noble Lord Realm warriors of the Northern Desert were here. There were 13 of them and 35 at the peak of the Eternal Realm. Almost all the most powerful warriors of the Northern Desert were here. If they couldn't conquer this small world, then they might as well give the Northern Desert to the Yellow Goblin race. Yu Huashan didn't dare to stop Luli anymore. Mingyu knew Luli's temper very well. He was impatient, but he didn't dare to stop Luli. They flew down to the bottom of the quagmire. 2 hours later, they arrived at the bottom of the quagmire. Many of them felt a slight fluctuation of inhibition formation down there. Blood Claw. Luli's right hand turned into a blood claw as he released his burning blood skill. Yu Huashan made up his mind and led the way with Yi Cha following him. They rushed down to where the inhibition formation was. Many people's eyes glowed. All the warriors that were close to the inhibition formation disappeared. Luli waved his hand and led the others toward the inhibition formation. Buzzing, it really was a teleportation inhibition formation. Luli felt his eyes lit up and he found himself in a strange world. This world was very bright, so bright that it was frightening. It was so bright that everyone felt like they were blind. The Xian Qi in heaven and earth was rich here, much richer than in the world of the Cyan Phoenix race. The trees were green and there was a river in the distance. It was a beautiful view. Yi Cha and the others were nearby, but they didn't dare to move. Since the Xian Qi in heaven and earth was rich here, the races born here wouldn't be weak. There might be races that were more powerful than the Yellow Goblin race. "Let's go take a shower." Luli flew to the river with the others and cleaned up the mud. Yi Cha and the others quickly put on their robes and began to explore the surroundings. Bang, bang, bang. After a while, there came some muffled noises from the east. Luli and the others hurried over and saw a patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race being surrounded by more than a dozen Yellow Goblin race warriors. "Mingyu!" Luli shouted. Mingyu released his force at once to contain the patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race and the more than a dozen Yellow Goblin race warriors. Whoosh! Yi Cha dashed out from the side. He cut off the energy channels of a Yellow Goblin race warrior with his hook and disabled his hands and feet. Then, Yi Cha left with the warrior. Bang! As expected, all the other Yellow Goblin race warriors blew themselves up and the patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race was smashed away. Okay. Finally, one of them was captured alive. Luli looked at Yi Cha and said, "Clan leader Yi, I will leave him to you." Yi Cha nodded and left with a patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race. Luli told everyone to sit down and monitor the surroundings while Yi Cha finished his interrogation. An hour later, Yi Cha came back. His eyes were glowing as he whispered to Luli, "Saint Lord, we are going to be rich this time." "Rich?" Luli was surprised. He was only here to save people. Bai Qiushua hadn't been rescued yet. How could he be rich? Yi Cha looked into the distance and said, "I have used a secret skill to get a lot of information. I have a clear picture of the world. This is a large place, 2 or 3 times larger than the Northern Desert. There are many treasures here. There are 18 races. The The two most powerful ones are the Titan race and the Stellar race. Their clan leaders are both human sovereign realm warriors. Titan race? Stellar race? Two human sovereign realm warriors? Lu Li frowned. If two clan leaders were human sovereign realm warriors, then this trip would be dangerous. Why was Yi Cha so excited instead of being afraid? Yi Cha grinned and explained, Saint Lord, you don't know this. The Titan race is large in size and strong in physical strength. But they are not intelligent. We can take them in easily. Lu Li blinked in confusion. Then he remembered something and shouted in surprise. Can it be that the Titan race is related to the Mammoth race? Ha ha. Chapter 406. They went to the small world of green dwarfs to look for by Chioshua and found a large world by accident. Such a large world was rare. Small worlds were usually located in cracks in space, and they were all small. The small world of the Cyan Phoenix race and the small world of green dwarfs were rare even at the Central Plains. Small worlds usually had rich xian qi in heaven and earth. The green dwarfs were rare. Therefore, there would often be some special treasures in the small worlds which were rare at the Central Plains and could be sold at a high price. Yi Cha was so excited because there were many treasures in the small world. If they could take over the small world, they would be rich. There were 18 races in the small world, but many of them were not strong. There were 5 of the most powerful races, and some of them were as powerful as warriors of the noble lord realm. They were at the territory of the Yellow Goblin race. The Yellow Goblin race was not strong in the small world. Their most powerful leader was only as powerful as a warrior of the noble lord realm. Speaking of which, it was thanks to Bai Chioshua that the Yellow Goblin race could go to the small world of Green Dwarf. Because Bai Chioshua entered the large world from the small world of Green Dwarfs, the Yellow Goblin race followed her. But the small world of Green Dwarfs was too small without any mystical materials. The xian qi in heaven and earth was not rich. Therefore, the Yellow Goblin race didn't pay much attention to it. Otherwise, there would be more Yellow Goblins. You mean Bai Chioshua is not captured? She went into the large world by herself? Lu Li's eyes glowed after he heard Yi Cha's explanation. Yi Cha nodded and said, That is what I know. But I don't know where Lady Chioshua is now. At least, she is not in the hands of the Yellow Goblin race. Lu Li was relieved, but he didn't dare to do anything. There were 2 powerful warriors that could be comparable to human sovereign realm warriors in this world. The Titan race might be on their side, but there was another human sovereign realm warrior. What if the Titan race ignored them and tried to kill them? The small world was the territory of the major races, and they were humans from the outside world. For the indigenous people here, they were alien races. How could the Titan race work with the alien races to suppress the local races for their own interest? This was a piece of cake. If they could take over this small world, they and the major families of the northern desert would all benefit. The number of powerful warriors of the northern desert would soar. Maybe there would be some human sovereign realm warriors after several decades. The problem was, how was he going to swallow this cake? Look for outside help? Jiang Qiling was a good helper. She could send several human sovereign realm warriors over. When the time came, they would kill all the experts in this small world and split the resources with the Jiang family. No! Lu Li soon rejected the idea. Jiang Qiling could be trusted, but not the Jiang family. Big families had always prioritized profit over friendship. Once the Jiang family got involved, not to mention the resources of this small world, even his position as the great emperor of the northern desert would be in danger. If he couldn't look for the Jiang family, could he look for the Du family? Lu Li thought about it for a while and still felt he could not do it. If the Du family knew about this, his life would be in danger. The benefits here were enough for the Du family to take the risk and assassinate him. Take it all. Finally, Lu Li made up his mind. Those who were timid would starve to death, and those who were bold would be stuffed to death. As long as he could take control of this place, he and his family at the northern desert would be able to soar. After some thoughts, Luli asked the others to leave except for Yi Cha, clan leader Yi. How sure are you that the Titan race will listen to the mammoth race? Yi Cha knew what Luli was worried about. He thought about it carefully and said, 70%. The Titan race is as simple-minded as the mammoth race. They are the easiest to control. Theoretically speaking, when the clan leader of the mammoth race is here, the Titan race will follow his orders. Okay, I will take the risk. Luli made up his mind and shouted, go find an exit with someone and teleport all the Eternal Realm warriors out. Tell them to wait at the world of green dwarfs and not to leave the northern desert. Tell them that the information here must be kept secret. Anyone that leaks it will be killed. Tell Second Patriarch to take my token. Luli handed over a token and said, tell him to go to Madame Yen and ask for some mystical materials for reaching the Noble Lord realm. Send them to the clan leader and patriarchs of the mammoth race. Tell them to reach the Noble Lord realm as soon as possible and come out to help me. Warriors of the Cyan Phoenix race could not leave the small world without reaching the Noble Lord realm. To conquer this small world, Luli must have the help of the Titan race. Therefore, there was nothing Luli could do if the mammoth race didn't come out. Yi Cha understood this. He went to find someone to make arrangements. They teleported to a nearby place, so the exit to the small world of green dwarfs was nearby as well. Soon, Yi Cha found a quagmire. He went to check and found an inhibition formation in the quagmire. It must be connected to the small world of green dwarfs. All the Eternal Realm warriors were brought out, only the Noble Lord Realm warriors were left. Luli didn't want outsiders to know about this. He wouldn't even let Zi Huanxiao and the others know too much. The more people knew, the greater the risk of exposure. Once the Central Plains learned about this, the big families would covet this information. By then, everyone would be doomed. Yi Cha came back and asked Luli after he made all the arrangements, what should we do next? Find someone. Luli thought about it and said, we will wait here. You go with the 3 patriarchs and find someone, by Qiushue. If she is alive, I want to see her. If she is dead, I want to see her body. We can't act recklessly now, or we'll be ganged up on. Yi Cha agreed. He didn't plan to do anything. He didn't even plan to attack the Yellow Goblin race. He would alert the enemies. A few alien races wouldn't attract the attention of the major races in the small world. Once many powerful warriors came in and wiped out a race in the small world, the major races would be alarmed. Luli ordered them to stay near the quagmire and nobody was allowed to leave. Mingyu, Yu Huashan, Zi Huanxiao and the others were surprised. They were also curious about what information Yi Cha had gotten. But nobody dared to ask since Luli wouldn't say. Second Patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race left. Yi Cha told the other 3 patriarchs something and then left. The Cyan Phoenix race was the fastest race at the Central Plains and they had the best scouts. The 4 of them were all at the Noble Lord realm. As long as they were careful, nobody could find them. Luli and the others waited quietly. Every now and then, some Yellow Goblin race would show up, but Luli ordered them not to attack. Seeing that there were many powerful warriors here, the Yellow Goblin race didn't dare to come closer. For now, the 2 sides were at peace. Of course, the Yellow Goblin race would take action when powerful warriors suddenly showed up in their territory. It wouldn't be long before their army arrived. Luli wanted to find Bai Qiushue as soon as possible and then leave the small world. He would make further plans when the mammoth race made a breakthrough. 1 day, 2 days, 5 days. There were more and more Yellow Goblin race nearby. Zi Huanxiao could tell that there were at least more than 1,000 Yellow Goblin race hiding underground. They didn't attack yet, but a fight was inevitable. On the 6th day, a gentle breeze came. Yi Cha appeared in front of Luli. He said with excitement, Saint Lord, I have found Lady Qiushue. She is in a race called the Hag Race. Did you see someone? Lu Li's breathing became a little rapid. No. Yi Cha shook his head and said, I caught one of the hag race and interrogated her. They said that there is a pretty girl in their race, but she was taken to a forbidden area. Average people don't know the details. Are the hag race powerful? How many noble Lord Realm warriors are there? Lu Li stood up with killing intent. Yi Cha shook his head and said, Not really. There are only 2 warriors that can compare to the noble Lord Realm. But the hag race has some special skills. Then what are we waiting for? Lu Li didn't listen to the latter part of Yi Cha's words. He shouted, Gather up and kill our way to the hag race to save her. Chapter 407. To kill the hag race, they must break through the encirclement of the yellow goblin race. That being said, those that stayed behind were all powerful warriors, so it was not a problem. Yu Huashan, Ming Yu, Yi Cha and the 3 patriarchs of the Cyan Phoenix race had returned. Zi Huanqiao, Zi Huanyu, 2 noble Lord Realm warriors of the Heaven Frigid Kingdom, Qi Tianfan and He Jun. There was also Hong Tianxia from the Heaven Martial Kingdom and Chen Ping from the Heaven Cold Kingdom. There were 13 of them, including Lu Li. Lu Li asked all the warriors of the Eternal Realm to leave, including Bai Lung. At Lu Li's order, they flew up together. Yi Cha led the way while the others flew to the southwest. Buzzing in front of them, many people appeared and attacked at them. The ground on the ground cracked as many yellow goblins charged at them. Clearly, the yellow goblins had misunderstood. They thought Lu Li was going to attack them, so they had to start the fight earlier. Break out of the encirclement. Don't kill them. Lu Li was protected in the middle by a group of noble Lord Realm warriors. He shouted in a deep voice. He could not start a fight with the yellow goblin race now, or he would attract the attention of the other races. He wanted to leave as soon as he could after he rescued the people and wait for the mammoth race to come out. Yi Cha and the others took actions, but they didn't use any powerful attack. The ordinary members of the yellow goblin race were very weak, and there were not many yellow goblins who could conceal themselves. Yi Cha released the space-splitting power Upanishad. Golden claws grabbed forward and easily cleared a path. The other noble Lord Realm warriors took actions as well. Mingyu released force so the yellow goblins could not come up. They flew out of the encirclement. Lu Li was carried by Mingyu. They were fast and they broke out easily. Yi Cha led the way. They didn't stop and flew at the top of their speed. The Xian Qi in heaven and earth was rich here. Along the way, there were towering trees and strange flowers and fruit. Many of the fruits were emitting a strong fragrance. They must be mystical fruit. They had been checking with psychic power. They were tempted, but Lu Li didn't tell them to stop. Who dared to go down and pick the mystical fruits? Fire demon fruit. Dozens of miles ahead, a noble Lord Realm warrior of the Heaven Frigid Kingdom, Qi Tianfan, suddenly stopped. He saw a special spiritual fruit below. This spiritual fruit was very valuable. It was worth at least 1,000,000 Xian crystals. What are you stopping for? Continue flying, and don't pick anything, Lu Li said coldly. Qi Tianfan twitched his nose in embarrassment. He said nothing and continued to fly forward. Yu Huashan and the others looked at each other in confusion. This was not Lu Li's style. There were so many good things below. Why didn't they let everyone collect them? Of course, Lu Li couldn't let others collect them. For one thing, he was worried about Bai Qiushue's safety. For another, he didn't want the situation here to be exposed. If a group of people went down to collect, they would definitely discover countless heavenly treasures. Greed would inevitably arise in their hearts, and at that time, it would be very difficult to hide the secret of this place. They flew in silence. Occasionally, they would see some yellow goblins hiding on the ground. Lu Li didn't order them to attack, so they had to keep up. Yi Cha had already scouted the route and did not pass by any yellow goblin tribe. They just flew around, so it was very safe. Just like that, they flew day and night without stopping. They flew for 2 whole days before stopping at night. Yuhuashan and the others were even more surprised. This small world was so large that they had been flying for such a long time. The size of this small world was beyond their imagination, but Luli wouldn't say it out loud. He looked at Yi Cha, who said, "Ahead of us is the territory of the hag race. There will be many tribes. Young master, should we kill our way in or sneak into their royal tribe?" "Sneak in. Do not do anything unless it is absolutely necessary." Luli thought about it for a while. Yi Cha nodded and said, "Guys, I will tell you about the hag race. Most of the powerful hag race are females. Males are almost defenseless. They have black scales all over their bodies and horns on their heads. Their eyes are dark blue. Pay special attention to their eyes. They are born powerful warriors of souls and they can enchant people. If it is not for their royal tribe patriarch, no one will fall for their tricks except for you, young master. Their weapons are skulls. Those are not regular skulls. They are refined skulls with venom in them. The venom is corrosive, but it should be fine as long as we are careful. There are many warriors of the hag race. Let's make it quick." Everyone nodded after Yi Cha's explanation. Nobody dared to be careless with Luli watching. The empire had just been established and this was the first battle. Everyone was rubbing their hands and waiting to perform well. "Let's go." Yi Cha waved his hand. 3 warriors of the Cyan Phoenix race led the way. Yi Cha and Luli followed them and the others moved forward in a line. They didn't fly anymore. They hid their chi and energy and sneaked on the ground. The more than 10 of them made no sound, as if they were snakes. In front of them was a rolling mountain range. Nobody dared to use psychic power. They had to rely on their eyes. Faintly, they could see many caves and there were many people moving around. The Cyan Phoenix race deserved to be the best scouts. Their routes were well hidden and they were fast. They flashed by and passed through the mountains easily. Well, the hag race is beautiful. While they were sneaking, they would look around and they could see the hag race clearly. Luli didn't have to travel by himself so he could look around freely. He saw the hag race 4 or 5 times. The hag race was about the same size as humans. If it weren't for the fact that they had black scales and horns on their heads, they would be no different from regular human females. Everywhere they went, the hag race they saw were all females with exaggerated figures. They had plump breasts and buttocks, slim waists and long legs. There were no black scales on their breasts. Their breasts were more than half exposed and their breasts were white and dazzling. The females of the hag race were all beautiful and flirtatious. Their dark blue eyes were like 2 gemstones, very attractive. Every one of the hag race had a human skull in their hand. There was red blood coming out from the skull, but it didn't drip down. Instead, the blood flowed out from the eyes and into the mouth. It was strange. Crack, 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 then they passed by a small hill. In front of the hill was a piece of flat land. Several hag race females were whipping some hag race males. Those males didn't have black scales on them. They were kneeling on the ground naked and being whipped by the hag race females. The hag race females would let out some lewd laughter every now and then. Female hag, female hag. Is it because the hag race likes to abuse men? Is that why they are called female hag? Luli was surprised. The people of the northern desert called violent women as female hag. Could it be that the hag race once went out to harm men of the northern desert many years ago? Otherwise, how could they be called female hag? The rest of the people were also secretly amazed. Chi Tianfan suddenly saw a black light flash on the body of a female yiksha, and the scales on her body actually disappeared, turning into a naked beauty. This beauty actually walked in front of a male yiksha, raised her leg, and clamped the head of this male yiksha. Chi Tianfan's eyes immediately went blank, and his foot slipped, breaking a stone into pieces. Ah! Chapter 408. Only females of the hag race could fight. None of the males kneeling on the ground moved. Instead, they looked over with curiosity. Whoosh, dozens of females of the hag race dashed over. They were fast and agile. Their round but seemed to be made of strong muscles that gave them great strength. Luli glanced over and realized that the speed of the hag race was as fast as a fate wheel. Yicha didn't do anything. The three patriarchs of the Cyan Phoenix race rushed out. Chi Tianfan and the others followed suit. But they didn't release their bead of life or Xian energy. They all took out their weapons, ready for close combat. A group of noble Lord Realm warriors against a group of regular hag race. If anything could go wrong, the hag race would have unified the great land a long time ago. The hag race kept shouting in a language that Luli couldn't understand. Luli asked Yicha, "What language are they speaking?" "Ancient language." Yicha explained, "This is the common language of the great land in ancient times. The hag race should be one of the ancient races. I think they had a glorious time at the Central Plains." The hag race was getting closer. Luli and one of them looked at each other. Luli's heart skipped a beat and his soul pawn trembled. It was a strange feeling. At this moment, he was burning with anger. He wanted to fight the hag race for 3 days and 3 nights. "Saint Lord, calm down." Yicha's deep voice came to Luli's ears. Luli came back to his senses. He saw a pillar under his crotch. He touched his nose in embarrassment and said, "The hag race's soul enchantment skill is quite good." Yicha nodded. He looked into the distance and shouted, "Don't let their skulls hit you." The hag race's skulls flew up and danced around. Their eyes were glowing in a blue light as they tried to enchant Zi Huanxiao and Yu Huashan. Unfortunately, all the hag race warriors were at the noble Lord Realm. Their souls were so strong that this skill was useless against them. Mingyu released force. The hag race slowed down. The skulls were frozen in midair, buzzing. They tried to fly over but were stopped. Swish, swish, Yu Huashan released his fire. Sparks flew all over the sky. Those who were hit by the sparks were set ablaze and burned to death easily. Everyone was relieved. They began to be on guard. Now they were at ease. They were not afraid of the average hag race warriors. Everyone displayed their abilities and slaughtered their way forward. Dozens of people were slaughtered in the blink of an eye. The male Yiksha, who was still on the lawn, was frightened. He crawled up and ran, his face full of terror. Luli shouted, "Kill all the Yikshas in the mountain. Leave no one alive. Yu Huashan, burn the bodies. Do not leave any trace." Luli was relieved. The hag race didn't seem to be that scary. Yicha said that the hag race only had 2 warriors that were as powerful as warriors of the noble Lord Realm. They could crush their way through and save Bai Qiushua easily. The battle ended in the time for more than a dozen breaths. There were only more than 100 hags here. The noble Lord Realm warriors were killed as if they were chickens. He continued to move stealthily through the mountains. There were many caves in most of the mountains, and many Yikshas could be seen. Along the way, the Yikshas were all female warriors, and the men were like stud horses and slaves. What's more, in a small mountain, Luli and the others even saw the hag race having sex in broad daylight. The women were on the mounts while the men were on the ground, looking like slaves. "Clan leader Yi, is the clan leader of the hag race a female as well?" Luli asked a critical question. "Yeah." Yicha nodded and said, "The men of the Yiksha race are not allowed to cultivate. You saw it on the way. The men are all slaves. The women are the kings of the Yiksha race." "That's good." Luli was relieved. Now that Bai Qiushua was in the hands of the hag race, she would not be defiled. She could be tortured as long as she was still alive. Yicha had found out everything about the hag race. Along the way, they were spotted by several smaller hag race tribes. Luli had to give out orders to suppress them. He was afraid of alerting the enemy, and the Yikshas might kill Autumn Snow. After 2 hours, they ran into many hag race tribes along the way. Yu Huashan and the others were shocked. How many hag race people were there? The population they saw was at least a few million, right? "They are right ahead." Yicha stopped, pointed to a mountain in front of them and said seriously, "Be careful. When we get in, there will be a big fight. What we have to do is to kill or injure the two most powerful ones of the hag race as soon as possible. Then we can suppress the average ones, save Lady Chioshua and leave." Everyone nodded. Yi Cha looked at Lu Li, who waved his hand and said, "Move." In an instant, everyone released their beads of life and flew up. More than a dozen streaks of psychic power swept forward like knives, covering the entire mountain in front of them. There were many hag race on the mountain, more than 100,000. Warriors and civilians of the hag race were everywhere. There were countless caves in the mountain. What confused Yu Huashan and the others was that they didn't see Bai Chioshua, not even a female human being. From the mountain came some strange noises. Many hag race flew out from the cave. Some of them even had wings on their back. They flew up to the sky like swords. Whoosh, 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 groups of hag race flew down from the mountain like a pack of wolves. Before they got close, skulls flew over. It was as if there were a bunch of meteorites floating in the sky. There was no end to the skulls. In the middle of the mountain is the forbidden area of the hag race. Lady Chioshua is in there. Let's kill our way in. Yi Cha shouted. He had already found out that Bai Chioshua had entered the forbidden area of the hag race. There was a valley in the middle that even their psychic power couldn't reach. That must be the forbidden area of the hag race. Charge! Lu Li shouted. But he didn't release his fate wheel. He asked Mingyu to carry it while the others rushed forward in an arrow formation. Yi Cha and Yu Huashan took the lead. Yi Cha released the space, splitting profound meaning, while Yu Huashan released the sparks profound meaning. Qi Tianfan and the others also took action. Mingyu released his power, but it was only to suppress the skulls that were flying towards him. Those skulls had venom on them, so they couldn't let it stick to their bodies, or else their bodies would be corroded into bones. Boom, 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 giant golden claws whizzed out like the claws of gods, tearing the space in front of them apart. Those skulls were swept away one by one, easily clearing out a space. Formation of blossoms. Zi Huanxiao and Zi Huaning both made their move. Their beads of life glowed and purple flower marks appeared on their neck. Then the sky was filled with petals that enveloped the hundreds of flying hags with wings. The formation of blossoms is so powerful. Lu Li had seen the formation of blossoms at the cliff of Purgatory. He was surprised to see it again. The hundreds of flying hags must be powerful warriors of the hag race. Now that they were trapped by Zi Huanxiao and Zi Huaning, it would be hard for them to get out of the formation of blossoms. Under Mingyu's force, the skulls stopped moving. Using the space-splitting profound meaning to clear the way, they rushed into the mountain with irresistible force and made their way to the forbidden area. A cold snort suddenly came from the forbidden area. Then a person flew out from the forbidden area. It was a very beautiful female yiksha. She wore a purple crown on her head, and there was a bright red plum blossom mole between her eyebrows. She wore a blue gemstone necklace around her neck. She exuded a graceful and luxurious aura, like a high and mighty queen. When the female hags flew up, the black scales on her disappeared. But not all of them disappeared. There was a small amount of black scales covering her chest and crotch area. It was as if she was holding a pipa in her arms. Everyone was stunned. That was right. Not only Lu Li, even Yi Cha, who had lived for more than 1,000 or 2,000 years, was stunned. Chapter 409. This was a very strange thing. It was a very normal thing for a gentleman to pursue a fair and graceful lady. It was human nature for a man to desire a woman. But at a certain age, this desire would diminish. At the age of Yi Cha and the others, no matter how beautiful a woman was, she would be nothing more than a skeleton to them. Not to mention that they were burning with lust. They wished they could press the queen to the ground and whip her for hundreds of times. Therefore, this was obviously a secret art unique to the Yiksha queen. She had released some kind of secret art to ignite the desire in everyone's hearts. As a result, they lost themselves and immersed themselves in the body of the queen. This was dangerous. In a fight between powerful warriors, one breath's time was enough to determine life and death. When a warrior lost himself and lost his mind, he wouldn't even know how he died. Yi Cha and the others were well aware of the danger, but they couldn't take their eyes off the queen. Everyone was short of breaths, and some parts of their bodies were stiff. The long-lost feeling had returned, and it was exciting. They were still young. Lu Li was feeling the same. He was in the prime of his life. He couldn't even stand regular hags, let alone the queen. His eyes were red, he was breathing heavily, and he had a erect penis. Ha ha ha! The Yiksha queen let out a lustful laugh. Her body trembled, and the sapphire necklace on her neck lit up. Suddenly, she reached out her hand and beckoned them over. Everyone's eyes turned red, and they were struggling as if they were having a mental battle. From the depth of their souls came a thought. If they were to get close to the queen, they would be smashed into pieces. But there was another voice inside them, a strong one, telling them, "Go over there and *CK the queen." That would be great. Buzzing, Lu Li's abdomen glowed as a fate wheel appeared. Then he flew forward with blurred eyes, as if he had been bewitched out of control. "Young master!" Mingyu shouted. He tried to grab Lu Li, but it was too late. Yi Cha's eyes were red and black. He looked ferocious. He made up his mind and shouted, "Young master, come back!" Yi Cha was extremely vexed. He had captured 2 Yikshas during his investigation and interrogated them many times. He was sure that the queen's realm was not high and she should only be at the noble lord realm. But he didn't expect her skills to be so powerful. Lu Li didn't do anything, but he had already immobilized them. They were terrified. Lu Li was about to be killed, but they could only watch. Roar! Yi Cha bellowed. He came back to his senses. He flew forward and reached out his hand to grab Lu Li back. Xiao! At this moment, another figure flew out of the Forbidden Land. It was also a female expert from the Yiksha clan. A ray of blue light shot out from her gem-like eyes and entered Yi Jie's eyes. At the same time, the black scales on her body disappeared. This person was not like the Yiksha queen who covered her breasts. She was completely naked and was flying towards Yi Jie at high speed. Her face was full of lust. Boom! Yi Cha felt like his head was about to explode. His eyes reddened and he stood in midair, unmoving. Zi Huanxiao wanted to rush out like Yi Cha, but he couldn't control his body. He could only watch as Lu Li flew toward the Yiksha queen. "Young master!" Mingyu bellowed, trying to wake Lu Li up. But Lu Li's eyes were blurred and he was in a daze. He didn't react at all. He just moved closer to the Yiksha queen. Ha ha ha! The Yiksha queen giggled again and again. She hooked her little finger at Lu Li as if she was controlling a puppet. 300 feet, 100 feet, 10 feet. Still, Lu Li didn't react. They were in despair as they watched Lu Li getting closer to the Yiksha queen. The queen of the hag race even reached out her beautiful hand to touch Lu Li's face. When the Yiksha queen's hand touched Lu Li's face, he trembled with desire. He couldn't control himself anymore. He reached out a hand to touch the Yiksha queen's breast. Ha ha ha! The Yiksha queen laughed even more slutty. She could tell that Lu Li was the master of these people. Lu Li was in her hands at the moment. She was excited to see her subordinates struggling in anger. She rolled her eyes, trying to figure out a way to play with this respectable young master to make his subordinates even angrier and more desperate. Right at that moment, the Yiksha queen's expressions changed. She sensed a fatal sense of danger. The sense of danger came from the young man in front of her, from the hand that was touching her breasts. Buzzing! Lu Li's hand glowed and turned into a blood claw. He grabbed at the Yiksha queen's chest. With a flash of blood, one of the Yiksha queen's breasts was crushed. Lu Li moved his hand up and grabbed the Yiksha queen's neck. With just a little bit of force, the Yaksha Queen's head would be cut off. His lifeless face had already turned cold, and his blurry eyes were exceptionally clear and cold. A playful smile appeared on his face as he said, "Your Majesty, it's best if you don't move or else your neck will be crushed." The Yaksha Queen didn't move, but her eyes glowed blue and went into Lu Li's eyes. She used her soul skill, trying to wipe Lu Li's soul from the world. However, what happened next shocked the Yaksha Queen and everyone else. Lu Li's expressions didn't change. His eyes were still clear and cold. The Yaksha Queen's soul attack was ineffective on him. Looking at the Yaksha Queen's shocked eyes, Lu Li grinned and said, "You are so small. Even if your soul attack was 10 times stronger, it wouldn't work on me." Back at the Mystic Armor Mountain, not even the great patriarch of the Lu family could sense Lu Li's soul. That was the Earth Immortal realm that specialized in soul cultivation. There was a mysterious dragon pattern in Lu Li's soul pond that could protect him from any soul attack, at least not below the Earth Immortal realm. Therefore, although he had a strong impulse and desire just now, he was still sane. He flew over of his own accord to take down the Yaksha Queen. Force! The Yaksha Queen was restrained and one of her peaks was crushed by Lu Li. Naturally, she couldn't use more secret skills. Yu Huashan and the others took actions. Mingyu released his force to contain another powerful Yaksha race warrior. Zi Huanxiao released the formation of blossoms at once. Whoosh! Yi Cha and 3 patriarchs of the Cyan Phoenix race flew over and surrounded the Yaksha Queen. Their hooks were pressed against the Yaksha Queen's body. Lu Li nodded. Yi Cha and the others reacted quickly. Lu Li looked at the Yaksha Queen and said, "You have 2 choices now. Either you surrender to me or the Yaksha race will be wiped out." That was right. Chapter 410. The Queen of the Hag race didn't understand what Lu Li was saying, but she did understand the situation. Yi Cha and the others had their hooks aimed at the back of her head and body. If she dared to move, she would be smashed into pieces. The strongest skills of the Hag race were their secret skills and soul attack. Since Lu Li was not affected at all, then she had lost completely. Lu Li's warriors were all powerful. One wrong move and the entire Hag race could be wiped out. Her chest was still bleeding. Her eyebrows were knitted together in pain. After a while, she opened her mouth and mumbled something, but Lu Li couldn't understand a single word. Lu Li turned to Yi Cha and asked, "Do you understand her?" "Yes, I know something about the ancient language." Yi Cha nodded and explained. She asked who we are. She said the Hag race is the followers of God of Meng. If we mess around in the Hag race, God of Meng will not let us go. Tell her. Lu Li looked at the Queen with sarcasm and said, "We don't care if she is God of Meng or not. I will give her the time for half an incense stick to burn. If she doesn't surrender, we will slaughter the entire Hag race." Yi Cha moved his mouth. He wasn't proficient in the ancient language. After all, it was from the ancient times. The Cyan Phoenix race was one of the major ancient races. Otherwise, nobody here would understand the ancient language. After hearing Yi Cha's words, the Queen said something with determination. Yi Cha shook his head and said, "She said the Hag race would rather be wiped out than betray God of Meng. She wants us to kill her." Looking at the determination in the Queen's eyes, Lu Li was impressed. Women were not inferior to men. She was even more courageous than Yu Huashan. God of Meng? Lu Li thought of something and said to Yi Cha, "Ask her who God of Meng is. Is he the leader of the Titan race?" Yi Cha's eyes glowed as he asked. "Soon," he said with excitement, "God of Meng is indeed the leader of the Titan race, a powerful warrior of the human sovereign realm." "Okay. Convince her." Lu Li pinned his hopes on Yi Cha. Yi Cha began to talk to the Hag race queen. Lu Li also took out a healing pellet and fed it to the queen in case she bled to death. Even though Lu Li could not understand what they were talking about, he could sense the change in the queen's expressions. She seemed to be in doubt. Yi Cha must have told her about the mammoth race. The hag race worshipped the Titan race as their master, and the Titan race was the descendant of the mammoth race. The mammoth race worshipped Lu Li as their master. Technically speaking, the hag race should address Lu Li as their master as well. Lu Li wanted to defeat the hag race not only because of their secret skills. Actually, there was another very important reason. He needed the night race to attack the yellow goblin race because the exit to the small world of the green dwarfs was in the territory of the yellow goblin race. With that exit under their control, Lu Li and the others would be able to enter this world at will. They would be able to mobilize armies without anyone knowing, which would lay the foundation for future attacks on this world. If they killed the yellow goblin race by themselves, they would alert the strong races in this big world. It would be very difficult to attack them then. Yi Cha and the Queen talked for a long time. In the end, Yi Cha shook her head and said, "Young master, the hag race is so stubborn. She said that unless God of Meng gives the order, they will not serve two masters. How about we kill them?" Just now, Lu Li was almost killed by the Queen, and so were the others. Yi Cha was worried about this person, so she wanted to kill him. Lu Li sighed. He didn't want to do that. The Queen was a powerful warrior that could charm warriors of the noble Lord realm. It would be a shame to kill her. Lu Li turned to Yi Cha and said, "Ask her if Bai Qiuxue is in the forbidden area. Send someone to bring her out first." Yi Cha nodded and asked the Queen. This time, there were no more surprises. Bai Qiuxue was indeed in the forbidden area. Lu Li waved his hand and Yi Cha went down to the forbidden area in person. Bang! Zi Huanxiao and the others had finished their battle. Flower petals filled the sky as Zi Huanxiao grabbed the heavily injured Yiksha expert and flew down. The rest of the flying Yikshas were still trapped by Zi Huanyu. Without the help of the Queen, this powerful warrior's skill was not good enough. It would be easy for him to be taken down. Whoosh! From the secret area down below, Yi Cha flew up with a girl. The girl was beautiful with a graceful figure. Her hair was black like ink and her white robe was fluttering in the wind. She was like a goddess. Lu Li and Bai Qiuxue looked at each other. They were like two magnets that could not be separated. The expressions in their eyes were complicated. It was as if time had stopped. The world in their eyes disappeared, and they were left with each other. Lu Li's heart was pounding. He thought back to all the things that happened between them. He thought back to the charming time at the mountain of Dragon King, how Bai Qiuxue risked her life to go to the Heaven Martial City for him, and how they stayed together at the Blood Evil Island. On the way to the Central Plains, he would often dream about this lady with bright eyes and white teeth in the old days. He only had some vague feelings for Bai Qiuxue. But at this moment, he had made up his mind. He liked Bai Qiuxue and she was his ideal partner. In the old days, all he wanted was to go back to the Central Plains, save his parents and get Lu Ling back. What was more, there was a huge gap between him and Bai Qiuxue. He didn't dare to think too much. Then Du Jing set him up to make him feel guilty towards the Bai family. He was too ashamed to see Bai Qiuxue. But now, he had enough confidence. He had become the emperor of the northern desert and the Bai family had benefited a lot because of him. The knot in his heart was untied. His heart was burning with love. His eyes were filled with passion. He handed the queen of the hag race to the patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race. Suddenly, he reached out his arms and said with a smile, "Lady Qiuxue, I am here to take you home." Tears welled up in Bai Qiuxue's eyes. She looked around at all the powerful warriors of the northern desert. How could she not understand what was going on? Apart from Lu Li, who else could mobilize so many powerful warriors? The old man of Heaven Prison was dead, and the Bai family was weakened. The Bai family was in desperate need of a noble Lord Realm warrior to hold the fort. Bai Lin couldn't make the breakthrough. Therefore, many people of the Bai family put their hopes on Bai Qiuxue. Bai Qiuxue was under too much pressure. Therefore, she went into the small world of green dwarfs by herself. She risked her life and cultivated like crazy. During the time that Luli was at the Central Plains, Baichioshua had been under too much pressure. She had suffered too many hardships and narrowly escaped death many times. Tough as she was only a 16-year-old girl. Many times she almost broke down and gave up. At this moment, Baichioshua could put her mind at ease. Luli was back. She felt she had someone to rely on. She didn't have to hold up the world by herself anymore. Luli was telling her in a silent way that from now on, he would be her world. Buzzing. The fate wheel appeared in Baichioshua's abdomen. She rushed over and threw herself into Luli's arms. She sobbed to her heart's content. "It's okay now." Luli put his arms around Baichioshua and said with a smile, "From now on, nobody can bully you. Don't cry. There are so many people here. You won't look pretty if you keep crying." Girls would always pay attention to their looks. Baichioshua stopped crying after Luli's words. She wiped her tears, got rid of Luli's arms and turned to the queen of the hag race. The queen of the hag race suddenly stared at the cinnabar mark between Baichioshua's eyebrows. She opened her mouth and screamed. The patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race that was controlling her was enraged. He was about to slap the queen to death. "Stop!" Yicha and Luli shouted at the same time. Luli turned to Yicha, who said with surprise, "Young master," the queen said, "Lady Chioshua has learned the secret skill of the hag race. From now on, Lady Chioshua will be the god of the hag race." Secret skill of the hag race? Luli looked at Baichioshua in surprise and asked, "Chioshua, you learned the secret skill of the hag race in the forbidden area?" "Yes, I learned a secret skill." Baichioshua ran her fingers through her hair and lowered her head. She said shyly, "But I think that skill is used to seduce men. It is obscene. P.S. One day off and I will have 4 chapters. 5 chapters tomorrow. Monday, please recommend. Chapter 411. Baichioshua did enter this world by accident. Some time ago, she was injured by some powerful green dwarf. She chased after them in anger and went into the swamp. As a result, she triggered the inhibition formation and entered this world. Anyone could see the wonders of this world. There were mystical fruits and mystical materials everywhere. Baichioshua, of course, didn't go back. She planned to explore this place and report to the Bai family. If the Bai family could get this small world, they would be able to develop quickly. But soon, she was discovered by the yellow goblins and they chased after her. Luckily, the yellow goblins she met at the beginning were average warriors. There were no powerful warriors that could go invisible. Even so, Baichioshua was miserable. She was chased all the way and had no time to rest, not even 2 hours of sleep. In the end, she ran to the territory of the hag race and passed out. Then, she was captured by the hag race. Luckily, she ran to the hag race and not some other race. Otherwise, she would have been defiled. Hag race respected women and all men were slaves. Women were not interested in other women. Several warriors of the hag race were about to kill Baichioshua when a flying hag happened to pass by. Women were not interested in other women. But there was an exception, the queen of the hag race. As a queen, she could have all kinds of men. She would like to have a change of taste after playing around. Many big shots at the northern desert were interested in men. This flying hag sent Baichioshua to the queen. The queen was delighted and wanted to take Baichioshua as a concubine. Baichioshua was not willing. She threatened the queen with death. The queen didn't want to torture Baichioshua, so she locked her in a secret cave. There were many obscene carvings on the walls of the secret cave. They were all about men and women having sex. At first, Baichioshua's eyes turned red. But as she saw more, she became less reserved. Young boys and girls were curious about these things. Also, there were carvings on the walls of the cave. She had to look at them. After several days, Baichioshua suddenly had a strange feeling. There seemed to be some kind of Tao in the carvings. She tried to feel it and learned a secret skill called enchantment. Bai Qiushue explained to Lu Li in a low voice with a blush on her face. Even though she was too embarrassed to say many things, she could only mumble some vague words, but Lu Li understood. No wonder autumn snow looked so different from before. Just by looking at her, he could feel his heart palpitating with excitement. The hazy feelings in his heart had finally erupted today. Seemed like this had something to do with this heaven's enchantment. He smiled and looked at the Yaksha queen. That's right. Autumn snow has comprehended your secret skill. You said she is your god now. Does that mean you will listen to her from now on? That's right. She is your god. The eyes of Yi Cha and the others lit up. They had been ready to give up on the Yaksha tribe, but there was still a reversal? Lu Li looked at Yi Cha, who translated Lu Li's words in the ancient language. The queen blushed. She looked at Bai Qiushue with passion and said a lot of things in her language. Lu Li was about to ask Yi Cha what she was talking about when Bai Qiushue suddenly said, I can understand her. She said that as long as I can use the skill, I will be the god of the hag race. None of the hag race can disobey my orders. Okay. Lu Li was excited. He said, then do it now. This race is very useful to me. Make them surrender to you. Wait, Lu Li suddenly remembered something. He pulled Bai Qiushue aside and said in a low voice, will you be naked like them when you use the enchantment? When the Yaksha queen and that powerful warrior used the skill, the black armor would disappear and they would be naked. Bai Qiushue was Lu Li's girl now. Naturally, he didn't want her to be seen naked. What are you talking about? Bai Qiushue was both angry and ashamed. She glared at Lu Li. Then, the cinnabar mark between her eyebrows suddenly lit up. She was enveloped in a faint golden glow. At that moment, Bai Qiushue seemed to have transformed into a Buddha, bathed in the holy light. She was sacred and solemn. Nobody dared to look at her directly. Yet nobody could take their eyes off her. Everyone was mesmerized. They were all obsessed as if they were looking at the most beautiful woman in the world. Bai Qiushue was breathtakingly beautiful, so beautiful that they lost their souls. The entire world had disappeared, and they could only see Bai Qiushue. Not only Lu Li and the other young men, but also the Yaksha queen, patriarchs and many low-level Yakshas were in the same situation. They felt their souls were being taken away and they had become idiot. What was more amazing was, nobody had any evil thoughts, no lustful thoughts, and no one dared to have any blasphemous thoughts. It was as if Bai Qiushue had become a goddess above the heavens. They could only look up to her and worship her. They could not have any evil thoughts. It was a strange feeling, but it was real. Even Zi Huanqiao, who was at the peak of the noble lord realm, had his soul taken away. If Bai Qiushue were to make a move now, Zi Huanqiao wouldn't even be able to fight back. He would have to accept his death. Buzzing, the cinnabar mark between Bai Qiushue's eyebrows glowed. The faint golden glow around her disappeared. Everyone came back to their senses. Zi Huanqiao, Yu Huashan, Qi Tianfan and the others looked at each other. Cold sweat ran down their foreheads and back. The enchantment was horrifying. Luckily, it was Bai Qiushue who had learned it. If it were the Yaksha queen, everyone would have died without even knowing how. Plop! The Yaksha queen got rid of the Cyan Phoenix race patriarch's hand and flew down. She led the other Yakshas to kneel down. They put one hand on their chest and kowtowed. They all shouted, Chi-yi, Chi-yi, Chi-yi. Lu Li looked at Yi Cha and asked, what is Chi-yi? It is God, the god in the ancient language. Yi Cha looked at Bai Qiushue with mixed feelings. He nodded and said, Lady Qiushue, you are so talented. You have learned the mysterious skill of the gods. Many races know about enchantment. Low-level ones rely on the body, middle-level ones rely on the soul, and I think the enchantment of the best must be the enchantment. Men, women, young and old can all be killed. What's more, she can make people feel like she is a god. Naturally, they will be charmed by her and follow her orders. I think when the enchantment is cultivated to the extreme, it can make people willing to die. Luli and the others were moved. This was not a mysterious skill. It was more horrifying than a powerful profound meaning. Bai Qiuxue was only at the initial stage of the Fate Wheel realm, but she could charm warriors at the peak of the Noble Lord realm. If she could cultivate the enchantment to the extreme, she could be as powerful as an army of 10 million. Think about it. An army of 10 million came and Bai Qiuxue went to fight them all by herself. She didn't have to do anything. All she had to do was smile and the army of 10 million would turn against her. The mysterious skill of the gods has the word God in it. Sure enough, anything related to gods is incredible. Chapter 412. Luli and the others could tell without the queen's confirmation that Bai Qiuxue had learned the mysterious skill of the hag race. For the hag race, this skill was supreme, as could be seen from the kneeling hag race civilians. As a matter of fact, anyone that could learn the enchantment would be the god of the hag race and would have supreme authority. To the hag race, those that could learn the enchantment were no different from God. The hag race was an ancient race that had been around for tens of millions of years, even longer than the Cyan Phoenix race. Throughout history, only 3 people could learn the enchantment. One of them was the ancestor god of the hag race, another was one of the ancestor gods of the hag race, and the last one was a human lady. Therefore, when Autumn Snow was able to comprehend the enchantment, the Yikshaws did not hesitate at all. They immediately worshipped Autumn Snow as their Yiksha god. Luli got the answer after the conversation between Bai Qiuxue and the queen. He was excited to see a glimmer of hope. He was about to give up on the hag race, but Bai Qiuxue could convince them. Retreat. Without much hesitation, Luli was ready to leave. Of course, he wouldn't just leave like that. He asked Bai Qiuxue to order the hag race to conquer the territory of the yellow goblin race. He wanted to control the passageway to the world of Green Dwarf. The queen didn't hesitate. Among the 18 races in the world, the yellow goblin race was one of the weaker ones. Luli could even destroy the yellow goblin race, let alone conquer a territory. At the queen's order, the hag race started to move. She mobilized hundreds of thousands of warriors and charged toward the territory of the yellow goblin race. The queen was injured. One of her breasts was crushed by Luli. But it was just a superficial wound that wouldn't kill her. It would just affect her appearance. The queen went with the army to conquer the mountain in person. For her, Bai Qiuxue's order was like a god's will. She didn't dare to disobey. Luli and the others observed along the way. They were relieved to make sure that the queen didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, Luli was not afraid. Bai Qiuxue could suppress them with her enchantment, and he was not afraid of soul attacks. If she dared to do anything, Luli would have to kill her. The army marched slowly. Along the way, Luli asked Bai Qiuxue and the queen of the hag race to ask about the situation here. The Yiksha queen answered whatever Autumn Snow asked without hesitation. In just half a day, Autumn Snow had already figured out the entire situation here. This large world was called the Deserted World by the 18 races. The 18 races had not always been in there. Instead, they escaped here 200,000 years ago. In the past, they were one of the most illustrious great clans in the Central Plains. In ancient times, pure-blooded humans were actually very weak. At that time, tens of thousands of races ran amok, each with their own divine abilities, and dominated the entire world. The human race could only hide in a corner and struggle at death's door. Later on, there were 3 great wars of the 10,000 races. The various races fought each other, and the entire world was covered in blood. Many powerful warriors of the races were killed, and the human race became weaker. In the end, they had to leave their homelands and hide in small worlds to avoid extinction. During the 3 great wars of the 10,000 races, the human race, which used to be the weakest, developed quietly. Many chosen warriors of the human race became powerful warriors and learned profound meanings. They could compete with family masters of the major races. 200,000 years ago, the Third Great War of the 10,000 races broke out. The human race rose up completely and exterminated many races. The human race occupied the most prosperous land in the world, seized the resources of many races, and became the dominator of the world. It was at that time that the 18 races were driven out of the Central Plains and hid in the deserted world. In order to avoid being hunted down by the human race, they had sealed off the passages to the outside world when they came in. When they first came in, there were 70 or 80 races in the deserted world. Later on, in order to fight for resources, dozens of races were wiped out. Now, there were only 5 powerful races in the deserted world. The other races didn't have many powerful warriors. As time went by, more passages connecting the deserted world to the outside world appeared. 6 of them had been discovered. There was even one that was connected to the Central Plains. But that passage was sealed off immediately. The major races went out to explore and found that the Central Plains was still occupied by powerful warriors of the human race. Nobody dared to go out. The most powerful ones, the Titan race and the Stellar race, had given out orders that if anyone dared to go out and offended the super-powerful warriors of the Central Plains, they would exterminate the entire race. Therefore, after the Yellow Goblin race discovered the passage, they didn't send out an army. They only sent some scouts to the world of green dwarfs to investigate. Faster! Luli told the queen of the hag race to speed up when he heard the news. If the Yellow Goblin race destroyed the passage, they would have to stay here for the rest of their lives. We must conquer this world. Luli made up his mind, not only because there were many strange mystical materials in this world, but also because there were many powerful races. If he could bring all the races under his control, his force would grow by leaps and bounds. There were many mystical materials here, but there were rare ones, just like the small world of the Cyan Phoenix race. If he could bring the races under his control and buy mystical materials for them to make breakthroughs one by one, he would have more powerful warriors working for him. It was even possible that after several decades, he would have many human sovereign realm warriors working for him. By then, he could build a new Lu family at the northern desert that could compete with the Lu family at the Central Plains. The Lu family would be as powerful as the Lu family at the Central Plains and could become the 13th royal family. Of course, this was Lu Li's ideal situation. No one knew how things would develop after that. Maybe the Mammoth race could not command the Titan race. In that case, Lu Li would be daydreaming. Or, if the news got out and the major families of the Central Plains got involved, not only would he gain nothing, but he might be beheaded. Anything could happen. Lu Li had to be careful. One wrong move and he would fall off the cliff, never to rise again. What he had to do now was to conquer the exit and return to the northern desert safely. After several days of traveling, Lu Li finally arrived at the mountain where the exit was. This was the territory of the Yellow Goblin race. Many caves were inhabited by yellow goblins. The queen of the hag race ordered the army to attack without any hesitation. She told the yellow goblins that from now on, this area belonged to the hag race. The hag race's support was the Titan race and the yellow goblin race's support was the Stellar race. The feud between the two races was deep. This time, the yellow goblin race mobilized their army, ready to fight to the death. Fight my **S. Chapter 4:13. After Bai Qiushue gave the order, the queen sent the patriarch to the area with more than 100 flying hags and 10,000 warriors. Lu Li and the others didn't join in. Once they were involved, things would be different. The major races of the deserted world would pay attention to the fact that the hag race and the humans were attacking the yellow goblin race. The Stellar race would probably send powerful warriors over immediately. Luckily, the hag race was much stronger than the yellow goblin race. Apart from the fact that the yellow goblin race could go underground and hide, they didn't have many powerful abilities. What was more, there weren't many yellow goblins that could hide. The average ones could be killed easily. The elites of the hag race came out in full force. The situation was one-sided. The queen of the hag race charmed a large group of yellow goblin race warriors in person. Then, skulls flew out and slaughtered the yellow goblin race warriors. The warriors moved forward. One day later, the patriarch of the hag race sent a report. They had occupied the area near the exit and protected the tunnel. The tunnel was not destroyed. The yellow goblin race actually wanted to use the tunnel to get out to the outside world and loot some resources. The yellow goblin race had the smallest territory in the deserted world, and they had too few resources. Luli was reassured. The situation was going in the right direction. Anyways, it would be a great victory if they could get out. At least, they could save by Chioshua, and she had acquired a skill. Get ready. Luli couldn't wait any longer. He decided to get out first and leave the rest to the queen. He told Autumn Snow to look for the Yaksha queen and ask her to find a way to occupy this territory for a long time. She had to ensure that the passage would not be taken by the other tribe. Also, she had to keep the news to herself. Bai Chioshua and the queen talked for a while. She promised that she would accomplish her mission without any unnecessary word. But the queen was reluctant to let Bai Chioshua go. She hoped that Bai Chioshua could stay with the hag race, saying that the hag race would provide all the resources to help Bai Chioshua improve her realm. Of course, Bai Chioshua said no. But she didn't make up her mind. She said that she would be back soon and that she would lead the hag race to dominate the deserted world. The queen was overjoyed. She thanked Bai Chioshua profusely and shed tears of gratitude. Bai Chioshua had achieved her goal. She rushed to the exit with Luli and the others. When they arrived, the area was occupied by patriarchs of the hag race. Luli was still worried. So he asked Bai Chioshua to warn the patriarchs of the race again. Go! Luli took the lead and dashed into the swamp. The teleportation inhibition formation was still there. They walked out one by one. After a white glare, they finally arrived at the small world of the green dwarf. Done. When they arrived at the world of green dwarfs, Luli and Yicha looked at each other in relief. Bai Lung and the others were still guarding outside. There were over 1,000 warriors of the Fate Wheel realm here. Shwelas. When Bai Lung saw Bai Chioshua, his eyes lit up and he cried out in excitement. Bai Chioshua's eyes were also red. Although she was covered in mud, she couldn't care less. She rushed over and knelt down on one knee, choking with sobs. Chioshua is too insensible. I've let Uncle Lung worry. Get up, get up. It's good that you came back safely. Bai Lung had a gratified look on his face. Autumn Snow was the hope of the Bai clan. He had always treated this niece of his as his own daughter. Yu Huashan. Luli left Bai Chioshua alone. He walked to Yu Huashan and said in a deep voice, "Go and gather some skilled craftsmen and materials. I want to build a formation here to seal off the teleportation inhibition formation. Nobody can get out." Yu Huashan was surprised. The others looked at Luli in confusion as well. Luli waved his hand and asked Bai Lung to take all the warriors of the Fate Wheel realm and Eternal realm to step back. Then he explained, the deserted world in there is not only the yellow goblin race and the hag race. There are many other horrifying races. There are at least more than a dozen warriors of the human sovereign realm. If they can get out, the northern desert will be doomed. What? Everyone's expressions changed. Luli's words had successfully stunned them. Yicha understood what Luli meant. He nodded and said, "That's right. We cannot let the races in there out. Otherwise, the northern desert will be plunged into misery and suffering." Zi Huanqiao frowned. He asked in confusion, "If there are such horrifying races and powerful warriors in there, why don't we destroy the teleportation tunnel? Wouldn't destroying the tunnel solve everything once and for all?" Why would Luli spend so much manpower and materials to seal this place? Of course, Luli could not tell them the real reason. He explained after a pause, "The hag race has occupied the exit over there, so it is safe for now. We can build a sealing formation here. In case a large number of alien races invade, we can just destroy the tunnel connecting the world of green dwarfs and the northern desert. As you can see, there are many mystical materials in that world. In the future, we can sneak in and get some." That's right. Everyone's eyes glowed. They had seen the mystical materials in that world. They were everywhere. They could not go in and grab them now, but there would be chances in the future. "Guys," Luli said solemnly, "apart from the few of us, nobody else can know about the small world. Not even your wives and children. There is more than one tunnel in that world. It is said that there is another one connected to the Central Plains. It is even possible that this world is the territory of a superfamily of the Central Plains. Once the information gets out and the Central Plains learns about it, you can imagine the consequences." Yes, yes. Everyone nodded. Nobody dared to be careless. Luli and all of them shared the same interests on this matter. Once the information got out, the big families of the Central Plains would get involved. All the families would be wiped out. "Okay, let's stay here for a while. When the formation is finished, we can all go out," Luli said. Yuhuashan left with the others. It was easy to build a formation. All the big families of the northern desert had the talents and materials. Bai Qiushua asked Bai Ling to send a message to Madame Yin. She didn't go out right away. She was touched to hear that Luli killed all the green dwarfs in the small world just to find her. She didn't want to leave. They settled down near the mud puddle. There happened to be a river nearby. They camped near the river, cleaned up and sent someone to catch some beasts for a feast. By the river, Luli and Bai Qiushua were standing by the river. Bai Qiushua had come to Luli of her own accord. However, when Luli brought her to the river, she said nothing. She just stared at the river, lost in thought. Luli was at peace now that he was out of danger and his people were saved. The scenery was picturesque and he was in a good mood. He turned around, looked at Bai Qiushua's pretty face and asked, "Qiushua, what are you thinking about?" Bai Qiushua worked up her courage, looked up at Luli and said, "Luli, I learned the secret skill of the hag race. It is a dirty one. You won't turn your back on me, will you?" Luli burst into laughter. So this was what this girl was worried about. She felt she was not as pure as before after learning the secret skill of the alien races. Therefore, she was worried. Luli grabbed Bai Qiushua's soft hands and said, "Qiushua, I have unified the northern desert and built the empire of godly prowess. Now, the empire is in need of a queen. Are you willing to condescend?" Bai Qiushua blushed. She got rid of Luli's hands and said with embarrassment, "I am asking you something. Why are you talking about this? Ha ha ha." Luli laughed and teased, "I won't turn my back on you even if you become a hag race, let alone a secret skill. Of course, from now on your dirty skills can only be used on me. You pervert." Chapter 4:14. Yuhuashan came back in 10 days. He mobilized many skilled craftsmen to dig out the quagmire and build a formation outside the teleportation inhibition formation. Once alien races were teleported over, they would be trapped by the formation and those guarding the formation would be informed immediately. Luli was still worried, so he asked them to build another formation outside. With 2 layers, there would be enough time for warnings even if human sovereign realm warriors from the deserted world were to come over. As soon as the warning was given, the powerful warriors guarding the exit of the small world of green dwarfs would destroy the tunnel. They might not have the chance to enter the deserted world in the future, but at least the northern desert could be saved. Luli asked Bai Lung to leave some loyal warriors of the Bai family to guard the small world. The rest were all sent out. Luli issued a gag order. Nobody was allowed to talk about the small world of green dwarfs and the deserted world. Anyone who did would be killed. Everyone had seen Lu Li's means. The green dwarfs had been wiped out. Anyone who dared to say anything would be implicated, not only themselves but their families. Lu Li jumped into the abyss at the exit. After a glare, they appeared in the area of demons. There were many Xian beasts in the area, but they were scared away by so many powerful warriors. Lu Li and the others flew above the area. Another tornado? Lu Li flew up to the sky. He could see the wind and rain, thunder and lightning. In the distance there was a huge tornado. It was so similar to what he saw at the sea. Lu Li thought of something. He took out an iron-armored ship and flew over. He waved his hand to Yu Huashan and said, "Yu Huashan, you take care of the rest. I need to cultivate here for a while." Yu Huashan and Ming Yu's eyes glowed. They both knew that Lu Li had learned something at the sea. Learning profound meaning in heaven and earth was a big deal. The empire had just been established, and there were many things to deal with. That being said, Lu Li had never been a busybody. He could cultivate here or at the Ling Empress city. Clan leader Yi and I will stay here. Yu Huashan, go about your own business. Don't let the northern desert be in trouble. Ming Yu said to Yu Huashan and Zi Huanxiao after some thought. The two nodded. With Yi Cha and Ming Yu here, Lu Li's safety was not a problem. They were great generals with many things to deal with. Qiushue, go back first. Your aunt is very worried about you. Seeing that Bai Qiushue was looking at Lu Li, Bai Leng said in a low voice. Bai Qiushue nodded. She flew onto the iron-armored ship, walked to Lu Li and said, "Lu Li, I will go back now. I will come back for you later." "All right." Lu Li smiled, waved his hand and looked at the tornado in the distance. The others came to say their goodbyes, but Lu Li ignored them. He was focused on the tornado in the distance. He had a feeling that perhaps he might be able to comprehend the profound meaning contained within the tornado. Everyone left. Yu Huashan arranged for some people to stay nearby. Once something went wrong, they would destroy the tunnel connecting to the world of green dwarfs. Autumn Snow and the rest left in a grandiose manner, heading towards the Heaven Prison Island. The three patriarchs of the Cyan Phoenix race left as well. Yi Cha told them to go back and check if the clan leader of the Mammoth race had started to reach the Noble Lord realm. "Come closer." After everyone left, Lu Li waved his hand. Ming Yu controlled the iron-armored ship to move closer to the tornado. When they were about 3 miles away, Lu Li said to Ming Yu, "You go back as well. Leave clan leader Yi here alone. Your secret force must develop well. I want you to have control over all the intelligence of the entire northern desert. Also, the information about the deserted world must not be leaked out. Otherwise, we will all die without a burial place. If we dare to leak it out, even Yu Huashan will have to die." Ming Yu was one of the people Lu Li trusted the most. The purpose of the secret force was to monitor the world and control the northern desert. Ming Yu knew this was a serious matter. Lu Li wouldn't be in danger at the northern desert. Lu Li himself was not weak and he had Yi Cha with him. Ming Yu bowed and left after some thoughts, leaving Yi Cha alone. Thunder rumbled and lightning flashed in the sky. It was raining and it was raining. Lu Li was soaked but he didn't care. He stood on the deck of the iron-armored ship and stared at the tornado in the distance, lost in thought. Yi Cha went back to his cabin and sat with his legs crossed to cultivate. But he kept checking the surroundings with his psychic power. If anything happened, he would be informed at once. The northern desert was peaceful. Under the rule of Madame Yen, the world was in peace. Lu Feishue didn't seem to be in charge, but she had been staying in the center and monitoring the world. Bai Qiushue went back to the Heaven Prison City. Bai Xiaoshuang and Zilian were both there. The three of them teleported to the Ling Empress City and met Madame Yen. Bai Qiushue didn't say much, not even to her aunt. She knew that the more she revealed about the deserted world, the more dangerous it would be for Lu Li and the other families of the northern desert. Also, she learned the secret skills of the hag race, which made her feel ashamed to say it out loud. Madame Yen was smart. She had gained a lot of useful information from Bai Qiushue's words, but she knew Lu Li must have his reasons for keeping the information secret. There were many things she didn't understand, but the Bai family and Lu Li were in the same boat. Naturally, she would follow Lu Li's lead. After 7 or 8 days at the Ling Empress City, Bai Qiushue couldn't stand it anymore. She said she wanted to go back to the Heaven Prison City to cultivate. Bai Xiaoshuang couldn't sit still either. She was under Madame Yan's control here, but back at the Heaven Prison City, she was like a wild horse. Madame Yan threw Bai Qiushue a meaningful look, but didn't say anything. She told them to go back. She trusted Bai Qiushue. As Madame Yan expected, after a couple of days at the Heaven Prison City, Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang went to the area of demons to find Lu Li. When Madame Yan heard the news, she didn't blame them. Instead, she was delighted. The northern desert had an emperor but not a queen. Madame Yan didn't worry about what happened next. She just sent someone to the nearby sea area to ensure everyone's safety. Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang arrived at the area of demons on the iron-armored ship. Today, lightning and thunder were flashing and the rain was pouring. In the middle of the lake, a tornado was raging, rolling up the lake water. Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang saw nobody on the deck of the iron-armored ship near the tornado. Instead, they saw a vague figure near the tornado. "It is Lu Li." Bai Qiushue and Bai Qiushue got a better look. Bai Xiaoshuang's mouth was opened so wide that she could swallow an egg. In the huge tornado in the distance, Lu Li was on his silver fate wheel. He was being spun around by the tornado. He seemed to have lost control of his body. He was spinning toward the center of the tornado. Swish! Right at that moment, a bolt of lightning whooshed across the sky and landed near the tornado. It went past Lu Li and landed in the lake. Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang were so scared that their faces turned pale. "Help!" Chapter 4:15. Dark clouds were pressing down, the sea was surging, the wind was raging, and lightning was piercing through the sky. The scene in the area of demons was like the end of the world. If an average person were to come in and see this, they would be scared out of their wit. It just so happened that a man was moving in and out of the tornado. He would try to fly his fate wheel out from time to time, but every time, he would be thrown around by the strong wind. When he finally stabilized his body, he flew out again. When he arrived outside the tornado, the strength of the wind doubled, and his body was sucked in again. He was like a man falling into a whirlpool in a lake. He tried his best to swim out, but he could not get rid of the suction. He was like a fish struggling on the beach, unable to return to the sea. Lu Li had been fighting in the tornado for 3 days and 3 nights. He didn't fall in by accident. He flew in on his own initiative, coming back to life from the brink of death. Lu Li had been studying for several days. He had a strong urge. If he wanted to comprehend the profound meaning contained within the tornado, he would have to enter the tornado. How could he catch tiger cubs without entering the tiger's den? At first, Yi Cha was worried. He stayed outside at all times, ready to rescue Lu Li. After a day of observation, Yi Cha was relieved. The tornadoes here were not as horrifying as those at sea. Lu Li was strong enough that the tearing and strangling force in the tornadoes could not tear him apart. On the off chance that he could not stand it, Lu Li would crush the jade talisman. Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang were relieved to make sure that Lu Li was not in danger for now. They put away the iron-armored ship and went to Lu Li's iron-armored ship with some servants and escorts. Then, they stood on the deck and looked at Lu Li going in and out of the tornado and being sucked into it every now and then, regardless of the storm. Crazy! Bai Xiaoshuang thought it was crazy enough for Bai Qiushue to go into the world of green dwarfs alone. Lu Li's cultivation was even crazier. Being torn apart by the strong force, Lu Li must be enduring endless pain. But he had been in there for 3 days and 3 nights? Bai Qiushua felt sorry for Luli. Bai Xiaoshuang was a carefree girl. She did not understand why Luli was cultivating so crazily, but Bai Qiushua did. Even though Luli was a disciple of the Lu family, he had climbed up step by step from the bottom. People like Luli cared more about power than other young masters from wealthy families because they had no one to rely on. They could only rely on themselves. Bai Qiushua did not know why Luli went to the Central Plains and came back. Unify the northern desert and be a local tyrant. But she knew very well that Luli was not a man who longed for power or status. Otherwise, he would have unified the northern desert years ago. After unifying the northern desert, Luli did nothing. He even preferred Bai Xiaoshuang and the others to call him by his name instead of emperor. It could be seen from this that Luli came back to the northern desert for resources, for cultivation and for strength, not for power and enjoyment. When Bai Qiushua went to the Ling Empress city, she asked about Lu Ling. Madame Yen and the others had no idea what was going on, which meant that Lu Ling had not been saved yet. Therefore, it was understandable why Luli was cultivating so crazily. Luli stayed in the tornado for a day and a night. Finally, he could not stand it any longer. He crushed the jade talisman, and Yi Cha rushed in and brought him out. Luli's robe and hair were drenched in sweat. He was exhausted and weak. He saw Bai Qiushua and Bai Xiaoshuang standing on the deck and grinned. Then, he fell asleep. He slept for 2 days and 2 nights. When he woke up in a daze, he noticed someone was by his bedside. When he opened his eyes, he saw a head full of black hair. A woman was leaning over his bed, asleep. The girl was sleeping on her side, peaceful. There was a cinnabar mark between her eyebrows. It was easy to tell that it was Bai Qiushua. Luli tried to get up quietly, but Bai Qiushua was alarmed. She opened her eyes in a daze. Her sleepy look was so beautiful that Luli couldn't help but stroke her face. Bai Qiushua's eyes became clear. When she saw it was Luli, she smiled sweetly and asked gently, "Luli, are you okay?" Maybe it was because Bai Qiushua was cultivating the enchantment. Every frown and smile of hers was so charming that Luli was mesmerized. He stared at her without saying a word. Soon, Bai Qiushua's cheeks blushed. She tried to avoid Luli's passionate eyes. She was so shy that she couldn't even look up. The coquettish behavior of a young girl made Luli stare at her even more. He couldn't help but say, "Qiushua, you are so beautiful." Bai Qiushua was even more shy. Her body was tensed up. Luli caressed her face. She was nervous and shy. She wanted to move away, but she liked this feeling. Luli sat up. He held Bai Qiushua's hand and said with sincerity, "Qiushua, have you thought about what I told you the other day?" "What is it?" I forgot." Bai Qiushua lowered her head. Young girls were more reserved when it came to this. Bai Qiushua's upbringing in the Bai family forced her to be so. Luli grinned. He pulled Bai Qiushua up, sat her on the edge of the bed and said softly, "The empire needs an empress." Bai Qiushua turned her head away, afraid to look into Luli's passionate eyes. She said, "The empire needs a queen. Why are you asking me? You are the emperor of the northern desert. Many young ladies will offer themselves to you. Do you think you don't have a queen?" Luli smiled gently and said, "Of all the beauties, I will only take one. I only like that young lady of the Bai family." "Bai family? Which Bai family?" Bai Qiushua's neck was red. She pretended to be confused and said, "There are many in the Bai family. We have many young ladies as well, yes?" Luli smiled again and said, "There are many young ladies of the Bai family, but there is only one Bai Qiushua. Qiushua, I like you." Boom! Like a thunderbolt, Luli's straightforward words and strong moves crushed Bai Qiushua's heart. Her heart was beating fast and she didn't know what to do. She had been mentally prepared these days. Otherwise, she wouldn't have come here with Bai Xiaoshuang. But now, she was panicking. She felt sweetness, nervousness and fear. Once Luli had made up his mind, he would not hesitate. He didn't like to be sloppy either. Therefore, he put his arms around Bai Qiushue and then kissed her with his mouth. He kissed her clumsily and passionately. Bai Qiushue was stunned. She froze. She didn't know how to fight back. She just let Luli do whatever he wanted. She noticed that a tongue had opened her lips. She was trembling. What was more, she also noticed that Luli was not being honest. He reached his hand into her robe and put it on a place that no man had ever touched before. She was lost and at a complete loss. She had to let Luli explore. Rustle, rustle, rustle. All of a sudden, there came some hurried footstep. A person rushed in a panic. Luli and Bai Qiushue separated in a flash. Luli quickly lay down, pretending to be asleep. Bai Qiushue sat with a blushed face. She didn't even have time to tidy up her clothes. Sister, Bai Xiaoshuang rushed in like a gust of wind. Her face was red, her eyes were flirting, and she was breathing heavily. She threw a glance to Luli. Seeing that he had closed his eyes and was sound asleep, Bai Xiaoshuang whispered to Bai Qiushue in a panic, "Sister, I am haunted. I felt someone touched here and kissed me. I don't feel well. Sister, what is going on? I am so scared." Luli opened his eyes abruptly. He felt as if thunder had exploded in his heart. He trembled. He had heard that twins could have telepathy. Bai Xiaoshuang once said that as long as Bai Qiushue was 30 miles away, she could feel it. He didn't know that it was real. Oh no! He suddenly had a bad feeling. In the future, if he and Bai Qiushue made love, would Bai Xiaoshuang feel it as well? If he shot an arrow, both vultures would be hit. P.S. Here are the 5 chapters. Happy Chinese Valentine's Day. If you have a lover, go and have an affair. If you don't have a lover, go and find one. Many people are thirsty tonight. As long as you are brave enough and shameless enough, miracles will happen. Also, a fan of the book drew a picture of the hag race. I will post it on the official WeChat account. It looks like it. On the official WeChat account, search for Night Demon or Yaoya 588. Chapter 4:16. Telepathy was a real thing. It was more likely for twins to have telepathy. Twins were pregnant for 10 months at the same time. They were connected by blood and grew up together. It was normal for them to have some mental connection. If the twins had awakened 7th-rank bloodlines at the same time and their souls were powerful, it would be normal for them to have strong telepathy. Luli had thought that Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang could only sense each other's existence. He didn't expect that when he touched her, she could feel it as well. This troubled Luli. Could it be that from now on, he and Bai Qiushue could only have spiritual love? Otherwise, once they had a physical relationship, wouldn't Bai Xiaoshuang be violated indirectly by him? Bai Qiushue was scared as well. She dragged Bai Xiaoshuang out in a hurry. She didn't know what to do. All she could do was to comfort Bai Xiaoshuang with some nonsense. Autumn Snow, on the other hand, understood that the telepathy between the two sisters was indeed extraordinary compared to that of ordinary twins. When they were kids, when one of them was sick, the other one would fall ill as well. Once, Bai Xiaoshuang was injured and she was in so much pain, but how could she explain this to Bai Xiaoshuang? She couldn't say that she was kissed and touched by Luli. Next time, if Bai Xiaoshuang felt something, she could pretend that she couldn't do anything or that she was possessed. Bai Qiushue had always been reserved. There were some things that she was too ashamed to say. She had to keep it to herself. She locked herself in the cabin and racked her brains for a solution. For the next few days, Bai Qiushue never came out again. Luli wanted to spend some time with her, but he was nowhere to be found. Bai Xiaoshuang was a simple girl. She soon forgot about it. She would chat with Luli every now and then. She even asked Luli to take her to the nearby islands. Luli was not in the mood to play with Bai Xiaoshuang. If he married Bai Qiushue, she would be his sister-in-law. How could he take his sister-in-law around when he had nothing better to do? Bai Qiushue was not settled yet. Luli was not in the mood to play with his sister-in-law. 3 days later, another tornado came over the lake area. Luli had to leave Bai Qiushue alone for now. He flew into the tornado again and continued to study the profound meaning of the tornado. The first few days when he was in the tornado, he had a clearer feeling. He was sure that there was a profound meaning in heaven and earth hidden in the tornado. It was just that he hadn't grasped it yet. If the first time didn't work, he would do it twice. If 1 month didn't work, he would do it for a year. Profound comprehension was the most difficult, but cultivation of realms was easy. As long as there were enough spiritual materials, it could be pushed up. It was not difficult for a big family to train a warrior of the noble lord realm. But it was hard to train a powerful warrior. A martial practitioner who had not awakened a powerful bloodline or comprehended a powerful profound would never be able to become an expert. The resources of the big families were not endless. If you couldn't awaken a powerful bloodline or comprehend a powerful profound meaning, you wouldn't be able to do anything. After reaching the noble lord realm, resources would decrease. Another point was that if one got older, resources would also decrease. This was because the older one got, the worse one's perception would be. Their bodily functions would also regress. 2 days later, a patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race came. Second patriarch had taken some mystical materials from Madame Yen and sent them to the small world. The clan leader and the 2 patriarchs of the mammoth race had been at the peak of the eternal realm for many years. As soon as they got the mystical materials, they started closed-door cultivation to try to reach the noble lord realm. There would be news about them in half a year. The patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race also asked for some more mystical materials for the eternal realm patriarchs of the mammoth race to cultivate so that they could reach the peak of the eternal realm and then try to reach the noble lord realm. After 3 days and 3 nights, Luli was extremely weak. He was brought back by Yi Cha again. When he woke up and learned about the news from the patriarch of the Cyan Phoenix race, he nodded. Half a year was not a long time. He could use this time to figure out a way to learn the profound meaning in the tornado. Bai Qiushue also needed to further cultivate the enchantment so that she could go to the deserted world and fight. Luli couldn't sit still on the thought of the enchantment. He got up and walked to Bai Qiushue's room. He knocked on the door. A gentle voice came from inside. "Who is it?" "It's me," Luli said in a deep voice. From inside came some flustered voices. Bai Qiushue quickly said, "Didn't you go to cultivate? What is it?" "Yes, it is business," Luli answered with a straight face. There was no sound in the room. After a while, the door was opened. Bai Qiushue looked at Luli with a blushed face and said, "Say it here." "Where is Shuang-er?" Luli looked into the cabin. He was curious that he didn't see Bai Xiaoshuang. Bai Qiushue glared at Luli and said, "Shuang-er went to the Puji Island nearby. She said she missed the Puji fruits there. I think she will be back soon." Luli's eyes glowed. He dashed into the cabin directly. Bai Qiushue's face turned red. She stomped her feet and said, How can you do this? How can you break into a girl's room? If this gets out, how am I supposed to face myself?" Luli was thick-skinned. He grinned and said, "What are you afraid of? I am the Emperor of the Northern Desert. If anyone dares to gossip, I will have his teeth knocked out." "You scoundrel!" Bai Qiushue glared at Luli and closed the door quickly. There were maids and servants on the ship. It would be bad if they were seen. After the door was closed, she sat behind a table in the room in a reserved manner. She looked at Luli with alertness and said, "What is it? Just say it." Luli was happy to see Bai Qiushue like this. But he put on a serious face and asked, "Qiushue, can you cultivate the enchantment? Can you make it stronger?" Bai Qiushue could already charm warriors at the peak of the noble lord realm. If she could make further progress and charm warriors at the human sovereign realm, she could conquer the deserted world all by herself without the need for the mammoth race. Yes, Bai Qiuxue said seriously, there are 3 levels of the enchantment. The first is called Charm the World, the second is Charm the World, and the third is Awe the Gods and Demons. I am at the first level now. Luli was taken aback. The enchantment was powerful. Just the name alone could tell that it was impressive. She was already so good at the first level. Maybe the second and third levels could really awe the gods and demons. Impressive. Luli gave her a thumbs up. Bai Qiuxue lowered her head in embarrassment. Luli suddenly stood up, walked to the table and said, "Don't you have any tea here? I am thirsty." Seeing Luli sitting at the table with a straight face, Bai Qiuxue stood up to pour some tea for him. Unexpectedly, Luli suddenly put his arms around her waist and pulled her into his arms. Bai Qiuxue was both embarrassed and angry. She said, "What are you doing? Let go of me, you pervert!" Luli made a shushing gesture and said in a low voice, "Don't scream. It will be bad if the servants and clan leader Yi hear us." Bai Qiuxue didn't dare to scream anymore. She wanted to get rid of him, but Luli had his arms around her waist. She had to put her hands against Luli's chest. Her face was blushing. She was trying to resist but at the same time, which made Luli angry. That day, the affection and tenderness were ruined by Bai Xiaoshuang. Now that Bai Xiaoshuang was not here, Luli wouldn't hold back. His other hand gently caressed Autumn Snow's thigh, before moving on to Autumn Snow's voluptuous buttocks and kneading them. All of a sudden, a feminine voice drifted over from outside. In the next moment, a person rushed in like a bolt of lightning. Autumn Snow leapt up like a sharp sword. Chapter 4:17. Bai Xiaoshuang's sudden return once again interrupted Luli and Bai Qiushue's intimate moment. Seeing that Bai Xiaoshuang was blushing, Luli stood up with a guilty conscience. Then he said with a straight face, "Shuanger, you are not young anymore. Don't play around all day. Learn from your sister and cultivate. Your forefather is in danger and you are shouldering the responsibility of revitalizing your family. Your aunt and Uncle Ling are watching you. Don't let them down." With that said, Luli left with a heavy heart. Bai Xiaoshuang was scolded. She blushed and was ashamed. For a moment, she forgot about the strange feeling on her butt. After Luli left, she said with shame, "Luli is right. From today on, I will cultivate. Sister, I will not play around anymore." Bai Qiuxue didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She said, "Luli is right. Shuanger, you really need to focus." Bai Xiaoshuang nodded. She finally remembered the strange feeling. She opened her eyes wide and said with fear, "Sister, I felt someone touching my butt. Is it a sneak attack from the Yellow Goblin race? No, it is too dangerous here. Let's go back to the Ling Empress city." Bai Qiuxue burst into laughter. She had to comfort Bai Xiaoshuang. She was afraid that Luli would do something reckless, but she had some hope. Luli had just confessed his love to her. How could she leave? The mind of a young girl was like the wind, the mist, and the rain. Nobody could tell. Bai Xiaoshuang pondered over the painful experience. She behaved herself and cultivated often. Bai Qiuxue was too embarrassed to go out. She would only stand on the deck and look at Luli when he was cultivating in the tornado. When Luli came back, Bai Qiuxue went back to her room to cultivate. She would cultivate Xian energy and soul pond. Every now and then, she would cultivate the enchantment. Life was fulfilling. The northern desert was peaceful. At the beginning of the empire, Yu Huashan was killing people everywhere. Madame Yen used both the carrot and the stick. Ming Yu was monitoring the world. Nobody dared to disobey, and nobody dared to act recklessly. People of the northern desert gradually forgot about the Heaven Frigid Kingdom, the Heaven Martial Kingdom, and the Heaven Cold Kingdom. Madame Yen sent someone to spread the word about Luli's achievements, making him a young hero and a legend. Many young boys and girls of the northern desert regarded Luli as their idol, a god. Naturally, the northern desert became peaceful. However, peace was only on the surface. Many families were still secretly angry, but they did not dare to show it in public. Why? It was all about interest. Luli would get 30% of the benefits from the unification of the northern desert. The Bai family, the Yu family, and the Z family would get 30%, and the remaining 30% would be shared among all the families of the northern desert. If Chi Tianfan, He Jun, and other fifth-rank families were included, how many families were there in the northern desert? How many third- and fourth-rank families were there? There were more than 100 third-rank families at the Thousand Island Lake. How many were there in the other three kingdoms? Luli took over all the mines, mountains, and farms and gave them to the empire. Only a small amount of resources was given to them. What did those families rely on to make a living? What did they rely on to raise and nurture their clan's disciples? What did they rely on to recruit outer hall martial artists? Of course, those families didn't dare to say anything. This was how cruel the northern desert was. Fists were the law. He could only curse secretly to vent his anger. Ming Yu's dark guards were everywhere, and he had to be careful when cursing secretly. There was nothing Luli could do. He came back to the northern desert for resources. The empire had just been established and he needed a large amount of mystical materials and Xian crystals. Luli had to make sure that he had food to eat and mystical materials to cultivate before he could worry about the interests of the families of the northern desert. Otherwise, what was the point of unifying the northern desert? There were too many families. Luli could not guarantee that everyone would have food. The establishment of an empire meant that many new forces would come to power and the power structure of the continent would be reshuffled. If Luli had to take care of the interests of everyone, then he would not be able to be the emperor anymore. Time flew by. 2 months had passed. Luli continued to cultivate in the area of demons. Bai Xiaoshuang and Bai Qiuxue were in closed-door cultivation as well. Yu Huashan was busy with the family businesses and Madame Yen was busy with the reorganization of the entire northern desert. Ming Yu was busy as well. He came to see Luli once and Luli gave him a task: find someone to go into the ice abyss. The ice abyss was the most dangerous place of the northern desert. Not even human sovereign realm warriors could come out. Lu Renhuang had been in there for more than 10 years and he couldn't come out. Therefore, the place was dangerous. Luli had to try even though he knew he would die for sure. He was the emperor of the northern desert now, and he had too many subordinates. Also, he didn't have to do it himself. There were many condemned prisoners in the prison. Luli could just throw them into the prison. Ming Yu found many condemned prisoners with different abilities and skills. There were also some special races, such as the green dwarfs and the yellow goblins. Ming Yu promised them that as long as they could come out from the ice abyss, they would be pardoned and set free. The condemned prisoners were excited. They were going to die anyway, so they might as well take the risk. There was an old beast king at the south of the ice abyss, but it didn't mean that there were no more beast kings. Ming Yu sent someone to investigate and found there was another beast king at the north. But that wasn't a problem. There was only one beast king that could be lured away. Beast kings were comparable to human sovereign realm warriors, but they were Xian beasts after all. They weren't intelligent. It was easy to lure them away. As long as the plan was good, there wouldn't be too many deaths. Luli told Ming Yu again and again to keep it a secret. He told others that Ming Yu was trying to get a rare mystical materials from the ice abyss. Luli didn't even tell Ming Yu that Lu Renhuang was in the ice abyss. Ming Yu was a dull person and he didn't like to ask questions. He would do whatever Luli told him. It was just to send some people down to the ice abyss. It wasn't too difficult. It just required some time and condemned prisoners. Hoi! Above the lake of demons, a tornado roared into the sky like an angry dragon coming out of the sea. There was no thunderstorm today, but the wind was stronger. A man was spinning around in the tornado. He tried to get out but was sucked back in. How come I can't get it? Luli felt every part of his muscles and bones were being torn apart, but he didn't mind. He had been cultivating in the tornado for more than 2 months, and he had gotten used to it. There was a strong feeling in his mind, but he just couldn't see through it. He couldn't grasp the meaning contained in it. This feeling was unbearable and stifling. He had endured the pain of being torn apart countless times and wasted more than 2 months, yet he hadn't made any progress. This made Luli doubt himself. He wondered if he could understand it or if he was going in the wrong direction. The 2 months were not for nothing. Luli's body was much stronger than before. This was similar to when he refined his body under the waterfall. After being torn apart by the tornado for a long time, his body's defensive strength had been enhanced. Average warriors wouldn't be able to pierce through his body now. Waterfall? On this thought, Luli suddenly thought of something. He remembered when he was young, he would hack at the waterfall with his saber. He remembered the swift and fierce moves. He looked at the howling wind and his eyes glowed brighter and brighter. Speed is the only unbeatable martial art in the world. Is the profound meaning in the tornado the speed profound meaning? Chapter 4:18. Luli once created a saber skill. It was not a Xian skill, but it was as powerful as Xian skills. The only thing special about that saber skill was its speed. Each move was faster than the previous one. Luli had been studying in the tornado for more than 2 months. He had thought that the profound meaning contained in the tornado must have something to do with wind or strength. The tearing force of the tornado was strong. He had been studying the wind and the strength in the tornado for the past 2 months. Only now did he realize it. He was going in the wrong direction. What he was studying in the tornado was not wind or strength, but speed. Of all the martial arts in the world, only speed was unbeatable. Speed was a kind of strength as well, and it could do great harm. For example, a meteorite could be smashed by an average warrior with 1 punch. But what if the speed of the meteorite was extremely fast? That is right. If the wind is not fast, then it is just a breeze, a gentle wind without any lethality. How can tornadoes be so powerful? How can they tear apart ships and grind the reefs into dust? It is because the speed of the tornado is extremely fast. The faster it is, the more inertia it generates and the more strength it has. The strength of the tornado is not the wind, but the speed. Speed is also a kind of strength, a horrifying one. But how can the speed be so horrifying? If I want to run fast, I must have a strong body. In other words, the warrior must have strength. Since warriors have strength, why do they need to turn speed into strength? Luli was in deep thought. He needed horrifying speed and then turn it into strength. The problem was that speed required strength. If he had great strength, then he wouldn't need to turn speed into strength. This was contradictory. If I don't have great strength, how can I be so fast? No, the wind is gentle. Wind itself has no strength. How can it be so fast? Luli opened his eyes. He was spinning and rolling in the tornado. His body was still being torn apart by the tornado. He didn't care about that at all. He stared at the tornado and tried to figure out the profound meaning. How does the tornado come into being? Luli thought of a key question. The wind was gentle. How could it turn into a tornado? If he could find the answer, he could solve the mystery. Ben. His eyes suddenly narrowed. Tornadoes were different from ordinary winds because they could spin. Luli squinted for a long time. Suddenly, he had an idea. He laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, I see. The reason why the tornado could spin was because it affected the power of heaven and earth. It borrowed the power of heaven and earth to spin. After it spun, it produced a powerful force that attracted even more power of the world, helping it spin faster and faster." Then, I will continue to draw upon the power of heaven and earth, repeating the cycle of the heavenly Tao, borrowing power to fight power, haha. Luli couldn't stop laughing like a madman. The more he laughed, the more excited he became. He accidentally used Dragon Roar and his laughter resounded in an area with a radius of more than 30 miles. Many of the scouts hiding nearby were shocked. The great emperor had been cultivating in the tornado for more than 2 months. Could it be that he had gone crazy from going around every day? Whoosh! Bai Xiaoshuang, Bai Qiuxue and Yi Cha flew out from the cabin and looked at Luli with worry. Bai Qiuxue even wanted to fly towards the tornado, but Yi Jie stopped her. Don't panic. Gongzi must have comprehended something. It's not a bad thing. Yi Cha squinted at Luli, filled with surprise. Luli was not even 17. How could he understand a profound meaning at the Fate Wheel realm? If he could, Luli could go on and eventually learn a profound meaning. To be able to learn a profound meaning, even if it was of the 2nd or 3rd rank, would be a horrifying achievement. That being said, Yi Cha put on a bitter smile on the thought that Luli was not weak either. He could even kill warriors of the Noble Lord realm. Many old warriors would be ashamed to death if they compared themselves with Luli. Eh? Bai Xiaoshuang shouted all of a sudden. Yi Cha stopped his thoughts and turned to Luli. What he saw shocked him. Luli controlled his fate wheel to fly up. He wasn't flying out, nor was he flying along the tornado. He was flying against the wind. That was right. Against the wind. It was such a horrifying tornado, and Luli was going to fly against it? Over the past 2 months, he had tried many times to fly out but to no avail. How horrifying was the wind. Now, he was going to fly against it? More importantly, he really did it. Even though he was flying slowly against the wind and he was spinning fast, Yi Cha, Bai Xiaoshuang and Bai Qiuxue could see that Luli was really flying against the wind. It was like a man being washed away by a huge wave, but he was swimming against the current, paddling and trying to swim upstream. It was a funny scene. The tornado was so strong that Luli felt like he was an ant drowning. Now the ant was trying to shake the sky. What shocked everyone even more was that Luli's flying speed was getting faster and faster. He was now almost at the same speed as the tornado. It was as if Luli was still in the air and the tornado was still spinning. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Bai Xiaoshuang's mouth was wide open. Luli had withstood the horrifying wind and was flying against it. It was as if a person was strolling on the surface of a roaring river, easily going against the current. Go! With a thunderous shout, Luli was flying faster and faster. Then, the tornado suddenly collapsed in midair. Without any warning, the tornado shattered and disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. There were no more tornadoes in front of them, and the wind blowing in the surroundings quickly weakened. If it were not for the fact that there was still a whirlpool in the lake, the 3 of them would have thought that there was no tornado in the lake area. He has learned a little bit of a profound meaning. Saint Lord is really a genius. Maybe the Cyan Phoenix race can take back our ancestral land under the leadership of our Saint Lord. Yi Cha burst into tears. Luli could break the tornado so easily, which meant that he had learned a little bit of a profound meaning. He was so young, so it should not be a problem for him to master this profound meaning. Also, by the looks of it, the profound meaning he learned must not be of the average 2nd or 3rd rank. Wow, Luli, you are so good. Bai Xiaoshuang finally came to her senses and shouted. For her, the tornado was like thunder, the power of heaven and earth, the horrifying power of nature. That was something that could not be resisted or approached. How could Luli destroy the tornado so easily? It meant that Luli had the power to go against heaven and earth. Bai Qiushue's eyes glowed. She looked at the young man standing in midair with pride. Her eyes were filled with affection and love. This was the man she, Autumn Snow, liked. Only such a man was worthy of her, Autumn Snow. Whoosh! Luli flew his fate wheel back with a big smile on his face. He was immersed in joy. He didn't know how powerful the thing he learned was, but he was sure that he had learned a little bit of a profound meaning. In other words, he was on the threshold of this profound meaning. As long as he kept on learning, he would master it sooner or later. He looked into Bai Qiushue's eyes. Their eyes were filled with passion and affection. When a man and a woman were in love, they only had eyes for each other. They wanted each other to be the first to know when something good happened, and they wanted to share their joy with each other, however. Chapter 419. No, I have to get rid of this girl. Luli made up his mind. When he flew back, he waved his hand and said, Yi Cha, send someone to prepare a banquet. We have to celebrate today. Okay. Yi Cha left at once. Bai Xiaoshuang and Bai Xiaoshuang brought some maids and servants with them. There were several cooks as well. They were here to serve the two young ladies and Luli. Wow, Luli, you really learned a profound meaning? Bai Xiaoshuang pulled Luli aside and asked, What profound meaning did you learn? What rank? 8th rank or 9th rank profound meaning? Luli, you are so talented to learn a profound meaning at the Fate Wheel realm. Have you learned some secrets from the Lu family? Bai Xiaoshuang kept asking questions, but Luli didn't have time to chat with her. He looked at her seriously and said, Shuanger, what realm are you at recently? Have you reached the peak of the Soul Pond realm? Bai Xiaoshuang stuck out her chest and said, I will reach the peak of the Soul Pond realm soon. By then, I will ask my aunt for some mystical materials. I will be able to reach the Fate Wheel realm soon. Luli, don't underestimate me. Luli thought of something. He looked at Bai Xiaoshuang with disdain and said, Bai Xiaoshuang, I am not underestimating you. If you can reach the Fate Wheel realm in 3 months, I will give you 3 sets of mystical materials. What do you say? Do you dare to take the bet? Bai Xiaoshuang was innocent and hot-tempered. She couldn't stand the provocation. She stared at Luli and said, Okay, you said it. Don't go back on your word. With that said, Bai Xiaoshuang pulled Bai Qiushue and said, Sister, let's go back to the Ling Empress city. I will go back and cultivate. I will reach the Fate Wheel realm in 3 months. Luli was getting anxious. He wanted to lure Bai Xiaoshuang away so that he could have some alone time with Bai Qiushue. Now, Bai Xiaoshuang was going to take Bai Qiushue away. He said with a straight face, Shuanger, I have business to discuss with your sister. I want her to do something important for me. How about you go back first? In any case, you'll be cultivating in seclusion when you return. Bai Qiushue blushed. Bai Xiaoshuang sensed something was off. She looked at Luli and Bai Qiushue with suspicion and asked, Luli, do you like my sister? Did you deliberately send me away because you wanted to hit on my sister? Absolutely not. Luli said with a straight face, You sisters are of one mind. Even if I have to flirt with you, I will flirt with both of you. Why would I send one away? Bah! Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang spat at the same time. Bai Xiaoshuang glared at Luli and dragged Bai Qiushue away. On their way, Bai Xiaoshuang said to Luli, Sister, stay away from this hooligan from now on. He might cheat you of your money and sex. F***ck, Luli secretly cursed. This sister-in-law was so troublesome. Unfortunately, Bai Qiushue was quite shy in this aspect. He couldn't just knock her out, right? That's right, if I can't knock him out, I can use other methods. Luli's lips curled into a smile, but no matter how he looked at it, it still looked very wretched. The banquet was sumptuous. Luli was in a good mood after learning a profound meaning. Yi Cha was happy as well. He asked someone to prepare some good wine and tea for them to drink to their heart's content. Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang were present. Bai Qiushue acted as if she had nothing to do with Luli. She was reserved at the table. She only toasted to Luli and said little. Luli didn't dare to make it public. Once he did, Bai Xiaoshuang would know that Luli had kissed and touched Bai Qiushue, which would make her feel like she was being kissed as well. Luli hadn't figured out how to deal with this yet. He had to keep it a secret for now. Bai Xiaoshuang was bold and unrestrained. She was bored after the period of closed-door cultivation. She never had a good meal. Now, she was eating and drinking with great excitement. Luli had changed his attitude. He was polite to Bai Xiaoshuang. He kept toasting her and flattering her with words. Bai Xiaoshuang was in a daze. She drank too much before she knew it. Bai Qiushue was smart enough to know what Luli was up to. But Yi Cha was here. She couldn't say much. She just glared at Luli every now and then, but Luli ignored her. The banquet went on for over 2 hours. Yi Cha left with a smile. Bai Xiaoshuang was drunk. Her face was red and her eyes were blurred. But she still had a goblet in her hand. She kept saying, "Come on, Luli. Don't go home until you're drunk." Bai Qiushue couldn't stand it anymore. She asked a maid to bring Bai Qiushue back to her room. When there was no one else in the room, Bai Qiushue glared at Luli and said angrily, "Shuang is just a kid. Why are you getting her drunk?" "Ha ha ha." Luli laughed and said, "You are twins of the same age. How can you call her a kid? Also, she is in a good mood. What's wrong with drinking more? It is said that a married daughter will side with an outsider. Why don't you help me?" "I don't want to marry you." Bai Qiushue rolled her eyes. Then, she asked seriously, "Luli, what kind of profound meaning did you learn from the tornado?" "I don't know the details. I need more time to study it." Luli thought about it and explained, "I think it is something related to speed. I have only scratched the surface. I don't know how to use it to enhance my abilities yet. But, the day I succeed, my speed will at least increase by 10 or even 100 times. Luli, congratulations." Bai Qiushue was happy for Luli from the bottom of her heart. His speed had reached the extreme. At least, Luli's ability to protect himself could be strengthened. This profound meaning was not something that could be learned easily. Ha ha, Luli grinned. Suddenly, he moved to where Bai Xiaoshuang was sitting. He reached out to grab Bai Qiushue's hand and said, "Qiushue, I have worked so hard to learn a profound meaning. Don't you think you should give me some reward?" Ha ha. Bai Qiushue flew out like a butterfly. At the door, she turned back with a smile and said, "You want a reward? Wait until you become a human sovereign realm warrior. My forefather has said that I will marry a human sovereign realm warrior. Your realm is not high enough." Bai Qiushue flew away like a butterfly. Luli was enraged. He was the emperor of the northern desert. Wouldn't an emperor be a sovereign among humans? The alcohol was getting to his head. He couldn't care less. He dashed towards Bai Qiushue's room like a gust of wind. Bai Qiushue had just returned to her room. Before she could close the door, Luli rushed in. But, as soon as Luli got in, he felt sick. Bai Qiushue's eyes were wide open and another person's eyes were even wider. Bai Xiaoshuang must have had too much to drink. She couldn't hold it in any longer. She was squatting by the bed and peeing on a chamber pot. This was her and Bai Qiushue's room. How could she know that a man would break in? She was already drunk, so she didn't think too much. Looking at her white butt, the liquid flowing down like a stream, and the mysterious area that was faintly discernible, Luli was stunned, but he reacted quickly. He noticed that Bai Xiaoshuang's blushing face had turned ghastly pale and she was emitting killing intent. Luli's eyes became blurred. He looked around, scratched his head and said, How come? This is not my room. I went to the wrong room. It should be that one. I am drunk so I can't even tell the direction." While talking, Luli staggered towards the outside. From behind him came a furious shout, Ah, Luli, I will kill you, I will kill you. P.S. I don't want monthly votes. I only want recommendation votes, recommendation votes, recommendation votes. Tomorrow I will continue. Chapter 420. By Xiaoshuang and by Qiuxue left. Lu Li accidentally saw Bai Xiaoshuang peeing, which made her too ashamed to see anyone. After Lu Li ran away, she flew back to the Heaven Prison City in tears. Bai Qiuxue was worried about Bai Xiaoshuang, so she had to go with her. Lu Li could not explain this. He could not just go into a girl's bedroom. Lu Li thought Bai Xiaoshuang was drunk, and he wanted to have some time with Bai Qiuxue, which was not wrong. He couldn't even apologize or face Bai Qiuxue and Bai Xiaoshuang. He had to put it aside. Time could dilute it. He could make it up to Bai Xiaoshuang and give some benefits to the Bai family. Lu Li had mastered the speed profound meaning, but it didn't mean that he was fine. He had to go further. There was still much he didn't understand. More importantly, he didn't know how to use it to enhance his abilities. He made up his mind to continue cultivating here. Mingyu would come over every once in a while and tell him about the situation at the northern desert. It made no difference whether he was at the Ling Empress City or here. Lu Li didn't see any tornado after a day's rest. He decided to cultivate for a couple of days to cultivate his Xian energy and soul pond. Now that he had mastered the profound meaning, he didn't have to worry about the rest. He needed to improve his realm. It had been more than half a year since the last time he made a fate wheel. His realm was stable, and he could try to reach the middle stage of the fate wheel realm and build the next one. The tornado came again after he cultivated for half a month. Yicha woke Lu Li up. Lu Li went into the tornado and studied for a day. Lu Li wanted to put the speed profound meaning into practice. However, he accidentally caused the tornado to collapse again. Without the tornado, Lu Li couldn't learn anything. He had to come back to cultivate his Xian energy and soul pond. He was ready to reach the middle stage of the fate wheel realm anyway, so he needed to improve his Xian energy and soul energy. Lu Li was cultivating Xian energy at a fast speed, 100 times faster than before. He bought a batch of pellets from the Pavilion of Delicacy, named Pellets of Delicacy, which were made by the Pavilion of Delicacy themselves. The pellets were the best of the Central Plains. If it were not for Jiang Qiling, he wouldn't be able to buy them even if he had the Xian crystals. She offered a low price, 10,000 Xian crystals for one. That was a friendly price. It would be at least 30,000 Xian crystals. Lu Li needed to consume 10 pellets of delicacy a day for his cultivation. In other words, he had to squander 100,000 Xian crystals a day, or 3 million Xian crystals a month. What did 3 million Xian crystals mean? Those were a few holy-grade Xian artifacts, and they were calculated according to the friendship price of the Linglong elixir. If they were calculated according to the market price, it would cost tens of millions of Xian crystals a month. Lu Li was only at the fate wheel realm. In the future, he would need more pellets and Xian crystals would be consumed like running water. Without the support of some forces, it would take Lu Li years to reach the middle stage of the fate wheel realm. How did Jiang Qiling cultivate so fast? How did Lu Renhuang become the most talented genius of the Central Plains in the past 100,000 years? That was because they had two royal families backing them, and they had endless resources. Lu Li came to the northern desert for resources. If it were not for the emperor of the northern desert, how could he afford the pellets of delicacy? Also, he needed to cultivate his soul pond. Soul crystals were being consumed like water. A genius was built on countless mystical materials. Without mystical materials, no matter how talented a genius was, he would be useless. If Jiang Qiling didn't give him mystical materials and he had to get them himself, he would be killed sooner or later with such a bad temper. Lu Li didn't have much concept of Xian crystals. Anyways, they were the best for cultivation. As far as he was concerned, power was everything. It was easy to get Xian crystals when he was powerful. At the very worst, he could just kill and loot or wipe out a big family. The northern desert was peaceful. Life was peaceful. He would cultivate when he had nothing to do. When there was a tornado, he would go in to study profound meanings. Sometimes, he would sit on the deck, enjoying the lake breeze, missing Lu Ling, Lu Renhuang and his mother, and Bai Qiushue. But he didn't dare to go see Bai Qiushue just yet. What if she was still angry? Another 2 months passed. Mingyu came again with 3 pieces of news, none of which was good. Many people were sent into the ice abyss, but none came out. All of them had made their jade talismans of life, but all of them had their jade talismans of life broken without exception. They were all dead. All dead? More than 100 people were sent down? Lu Li's face was clouded. According to Lu Ling's estimation, Lu Renhuang was alive and well. He should be in the ice abyss. How come all the people he sent down died? There were only 2 possibilities. First, they died before they reached the bottom of the ice abyss. Second, they didn't find Lu Renhuang when they reached the bottom of the ice abyss and were killed. If they were to encounter Lu Renhuang, he would definitely protect them. Lu Renhuang would ask Lu Li and learn that Lu Li had become an emperor at the northern desert. Maybe Lu Renhuang would contact Lu Li and figure out a way to get out together. Now that everyone was dead, Lu Li didn't know what to do. He wasn't so stupid as to go down himself or send Mingyu down. What about the second piece of news? Lu Li sighed. He had to wait. He would send human sovereign realm warriors down after he conquered the deserted world. Mingyu said bitterly, I heard from the Pavilion of Delicacy that they have checked all the powerful warriors of the Great Land and only found 3 that learned holy light profound meaning. 1 died 5 years ago, 1 was a nun from the Palace of Immortals' Inquiries, and the other one was one of the Arhats of the Great Buddhist Temple. But that Arhat of the Great Buddhist Temple has been meditating for 100 years and never left. The nun from the Palace of Immortals' Inquiries is dying of old age. She hasn't left the Palace of Immortals' Inquiries for 50 years. The Pavilion of Delicacy has sent people to 2 places to confirm that they didn't kidnap Lady Ling. A glint of coldness rose in Lu Li's eyes. He said coldly, Is there a mistake? Or is it that the Palace of Immortals' Inquiries and the Great Buddhist Temple are hiding this on purpose? Or are there other powerful warriors that have learned holy light profound meaning that they haven't found? Mingyu shook his head and said, There is no mistake. Jiang Hong came in person. He said that Lady Jiang has asked about this and the Hall of Intelligence has investigated several times. They asked the Palace of Immortals' Inquiries and the Great Buddhist Temple in person. They also confirmed through other means that the 2 haven't left recently. As for whether there are other powerful warriors that have learned holy light profound meaning, I don't know. Lu Li smashed a table with his fist and shouted, Find out. We will find out ourselves. I don't care how many Xian crystals we have to spend. To Lu Li, Lu Ling was more important than his own life. Powerful warriors that had learned holy light profound meaning was the only clue. Lu Li could not accept this fact. Therefore, he didn't want to rely on the Pavilion of Delicacy. He wanted to find out on his own. He didn't feel comfortable owing Jiang Qiling a favor. Mingyu thought about it and said, There is a way. We can go to the sanctuary and offer a huge reward. Maybe we can find some clues soon. Sanctuary? Chapter 421. The sanctuary was not a force, but a chamber of commerce, similar to the heaven-punishing auction house of the Du family. The background of the sanctuary was one of the 12 royal families, the most powerful royal family in the past 10,000 years, the Samsara Palace. The sanctuary did all kinds of business and they could buy anything they wanted. As long as they had enough Xian crystals, the sanctuary could even wipe out a 7th-rank family. Killing human sovereign realm warriors would not be difficult for the sanctuary, Samsara Palace? Lu Li felt uneasy. The Samsara Palace once participated in the operation to wipe out the Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race. What if the Samsara Palace found out about the northern desert? Would they find out about Yi Cha and the others? the most powerful of the 12 royal families, a family of the 7th rank that could be wiped out easily. How powerful was the Samsara Palace? Luli could not imagine. He asked, "Will they find out about us if we go and issue a mission?" Of course not. Mingyu knew this very well. He explained, "The sanctuary values its credibility. It has always been the most powerful chamber of commerce in the world, and there has never been a problem with its credibility. Also, it is not the sanctuary that is going to issue a reward. It is going to be announced. Only those who know about it will accept the mission. The sanctuary is not going to do it for us." "Oh, that's good." Luli was relieved. He said, "Then go and issue a mission. Put out a portrait of my sister. Tell them that she was taken away by a warrior that had learned holy light profound meaning. Anyone who finds my sister or this powerful warrior will be rewarded handsomely." Okay. Mingyu made a mental note. He had a portrait of Lu Ling. All he had to do was to offer some Xian crystals to a branch of the sanctuary. Luli sighed. He looked awful. He had thought that he could find Lu Ling easily with the Pavilion of Delicacy. But this was not the case. After a pause, he pulled himself together and asked, "What about the other news? Is it bad news as well?" "Yes." Mingyu was not as tactful as Yu Huashan. He nodded and said, "Jiang Hong told me that the Song family was destroyed." "Song family? The Song family from the Palace of Heaven's Roars?" Luli asked in confusion. Mingyu nodded, which confused him even more. Luli asked, "The Song family is our enemy. It is a good thing that they were destroyed. Why are you so upset?" "Alas," Mingyu shook his head and sighed. "The Song family was destroyed by the Palace of Blue Lions. Song family patriarch and 3 patriarchs at the peak of the Noble Lord realm escape." Jiang Hong said, "The Pavilion of Delicacy found traces of the 4 at the northern central plains. But the 4 went into hiding when they realized they were being followed." "What?" Lu Li's expressions changed and his mind was weighed down. When he and Mo Yi killed several noble Lord Realm warriors of the Song family at the mountain city, they had completely offended the Song family. When he returned to the Lu family, the 8th elder expressed that he would seek justice for him. He didn't care about what happened after that. He didn't expect the Palace of Blue Lions to really send troops to destroy the Song clan. Why did they have to let the Song clan's patriarch escape? Luli wanted to curse the people of the Palace of Blue Lions for being useless. The clan leader of the Song clan was a Ren Huang. The Song family was originally in the northeastern part of the central prefecture, so why did they run to the northern part of the central prefecture? It was obvious that they were here for him. The Song clan's patriarch couldn't take revenge on the Lu clan, so he was prepared to take revenge on him. The family leader of the Song family must have known that he was expelled from the Lu family and that he had returned to the northern desert. Therefore, he had come all the way to the north of the Central Plains to assassinate him and avenge himself. Wait, suddenly, Luli had a bad feeling. Was there some kind of conspiracy? Was it Lu Fenghua, Lu Swan and Lu Ni's plan? Otherwise, why would the Palace of Blue Lions, a 7th-rank force with the approval of the Lu family, let the Song clan's patriarch go to destroy a 6th-rank family? If the Palace of Blue Lions were so useless, they wouldn't be qualified to be a 7th-rank force. Also, the fact that Lu Li and Lu Feishue were expelled from the Lu family was only known by the Lu family. The Lu family was sealed, and only the other 11 royal families had the right to know. How did the Song clan patriarch get the information when the Song family was destroyed? How did he know that Lu Li was at the northern desert? Lu Li smelled a conspiracy. But Lu Zhengtan didn't know about this. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let Lu Li go back to the northern desert. It might be Lu Fenghua or Lu Swan's doing. Big trouble. The more Lu Li thought about it, the more troubled he was. It wouldn't be a problem if there were only 3 warriors of the Noble Lord realm. But there was one at the human sovereign realm. The difference in realms was huge. Human sovereign realm warriors had force field. In force field, they were invincible. No matter how many noble Lord Realm warriors came, they would be courting death. There was a teleportation formation between the central plains and the northern desert. Luli could have someone control the teleportation formation or even seal off the one at the Ling Empress City. But the Song family warriors could cross the sea. They wouldn't take the teleportation formation. The sea was vast and the territory was vast. Luli had asked Jiang Qiling to seal off the north and let nobody come to the northern desert. But how could the Pavilion of Delicacy stop the human sovereign realm warriors from sneaking into the northern desert? The more Luli thought about it, the worse he became. The situation he had worked so hard to build would be ruined with the arrival of the Song family warriors. He could not fight back and he had to wait for his doom. What to do? Luli forced himself to calm down and think of a way out. Soon, he had a clear idea. The only way was to find the Song family warriors. As long as he could find them, he could ask Jiang Qiling to send 2 patriarchs from the Pavilion of Delicacy to destroy the Song family. He could not let the Song family patriarch enter the northern desert. His life would be in danger and so would everyone related to him. Let's go. Luli could not sit still any longer. He shouted, let's go back to the Ling Empress City and then to the Central Plains. I want to find Jiang Qiling. He didn't want to owe Jiang Qiling anything, but he had been pushed into a corner. If Jiang Qiling didn't help him, he, Bai Qiushue, Ming Yu and the others would all die. Yi Cha didn't care at all. He would do whatever Luli said. Usually, the patriarchs of the Cyan Phoenix race would not be exposed to the public. This was Luli's request. Yi Cha understood that it would not be good for the 2 races if the Cyan Phoenix race was exposed too much. The iron-armored ship flew toward the Heaven Prison City. At the Heaven Prison City, Luli asked about the Bai family. Bai Qiushue and Bai Xiaoshuang were not at the Bai Emperor Mountain. They had gone to the Ling Empress City. Du Jing sent someone to say that he wanted to have a drink with Luli. Luli was in no mood to waste time with Du Jing. He said that he would come back later to apologize, and then he teleported to the Ling Empress City in a hurry. Greetings, Your Majesty. As soon as they arrived at the Ling Empress City, everyone in the city knelt down. Luli waved his hand to let them rise and then flew into the Imperial Palace. Luli didn't waste any time after he found Madame Yen. He asked Madame Yen to send someone to the coast to patrol secretly and report to him as soon as there were unfamiliar powerful warriors sneaking in. Unfamiliar powerful warriors? Madame Yen frowned seeing that Luli was so upset. She asked carefully, warriors from the Central Plains? Are they here to seek revenge? Yes. Luli didn't want to keep this a secret. He nodded and said, if you see unfamiliar powerful warriors sneaking in, go to your small worlds and hide. I will go to the Pavilion of Delicacy in person and ask their powerful warriors to help. Okay. Madame Yen nodded. Luli left in a hurry with Ming Yu and teleported to the Cloud City. Madame Yen looked at Luli's back. Her pretty face was clouded. Powerful warriors that could make Luli so nervous? Could they be at the human sovereign realm? Chapter 422. At the Cloud City, Luli and Ming Yu appeared in the teleportation formation. All the warriors of the Palace of Peaceful Heavens knew them. A team leader took the lead and saluted them. Luli nodded and then walked to the branch of the Chamber of Commerce of Delicacy. Jiang Hua, the branch master, came out in a hurry to welcome them in. If it were only Ming Yu, Jiang Hua wouldn't have come out to greet them. Luli's identity was different. After tea was served, Jiang Hua asked, Young Master Lu, what can I do for you? Jiang Hua used the word order to show his respect to Luli. Luli cut to the chase and said, I want to see your Lady Qi right now. Lady Qi? Jiang Hua was in a dilemma. He said with a frown, Lady Qi has gone back to the City of Delicacy. I don't have the authority to contact her. How about I ask Patriarch Hong for instructions, and ask Patriarch Hong to ask Lady Qi? Who knew how long it would take to ask for instructions? Luli thought about it and said, no. Take me to the City of Delicacy. I will go to Jianghong and see your Lady Qi in person. Okay. Jiang Hua didn't dare to disobey Luli. If Luli really was in a hurry and Jiang Qiling blamed him, he would lose his position as the branch master. Jiang Hua gave some instructions and then teleported Luli away in person. The City of Delicacy was a bit far away. They had to teleport more than a dozen times before they arrived at a huge city. It was almost dusk. The setting sun in the west was like blood, covering the entire city in a yellow and red glow. The towering ancient city looked quite magnificent at the moment. Jiang Hua showed Luli and Jiang Qiling to a luxurious tavern, a property of the Jiang family. Jiang Hua left after they were settled in a separate yard. He said he would invite Jiang Hong over soon. Luli and Jiang Qiling had a simple meal. But after the time for 3 incense sticks to burn, Jiang Hong came. He was embarrassed to hear that Luli wanted to see Jiang Qiling. Lady Qi has been trying to reach the noble lord realm since she came back last time. But she failed and she was badly injured. She is recuperating at the Island of Delicacy. I don't have the authority to see her. Lu Li's expressions turned awful after he heard Jiang Hong's explanation. He asked with concern, "Is Lady Qi all right? There won't be any side effects, right?" "That's fine." Jiang Hong shook his head and said, "Lady Qi is in too much of a hurry. She tried to reach the noble lord realm before she stabilized her realm. She was hurt when she failed. The pavilion master has used a divine herb. Miss Qi will have no problem in her cultivation in the future. She needs to rest now. The pavilion master has ordered that no one is to disturb her." Lu Li and Mingyu looked at each other, feeling anxious. The Song family patriarch could sneak into the northern desert at any time. By then, there would be bloodshed and the empire of godly prowess would fall apart. Lu Li stared at Jiang Hong and asked, "Is there no other way?" Seeing that Lu Li was in a hurry, Jiang Hong thought about it and said, "Yes. We can't enter Miss Qi's pavilion of Advent Immortals, but we can make Miss Qi summon us. Come, follow me to Linglong Island." Jiang Hong knew very well how important Lu Li was to Jiang Qiling. He knew her personality even better. If Jiang Qiling were to lose her mind, the entire Jiang family would be turned upside down. Jiang Hong took Lu Li to the north and entered a magnificent yard. There were many buildings and castles in the yard, pavilions and terraces. Lu Li and Mingyu were confused. After an hour, there was a huge lake in front of them. Jiang Hong explained, "This is the Lake of Delicacy. There is an island of delicacy in the middle of the lake. Only disciples of the Jiang family have the right to live there." "Oh, I see." Lu Li nodded. There was a mystic armor mountain in the mystic armor city where disciples of the Lu family live. But there was an island of delicacy in the City of Delicacy where disciples of the Jiang family live. Did the 12 royal families like to show off their nobility and uniqueness like this? Jiang Hong didn't fly across the lake directly. Instead, he took them to a dock and boarded a boat. There are many inhibition formations in the lake. Going into the water or flying will trigger them. Usually, if someone dares to trespass on the island of delicacy, he or she will die. Jiang Hong explained. The boat was fast and someone was steering it. Jiang Hong looked back and said, "Drive the boat to the foot of the cliff of Advent." Jiang Hong was a patriarch of the Jiang family. Even though his rank was not high, he was still a patriarch. The person controlling the warship immediately adjusted the direction of the ship and steered it to the left. Lu Li and Mingyu were confused. Jiang Hong explained with a smile, "Lady Qi likes to daydream on the cliff of Advent when she has nothing to do. It will be up to your luck to see her." Lu Li walked to the deck and gazed into the distance. The boat was fast. In the time for only 3 incense sticks to burn, a huge island appeared in their sight. The sun had set. There was only a strand of blood-red glow in the sky to the west. The entire island of Delicacy became hazy, as if it were a dream or a fantasy. Closer, closer. Luli and the others saw a cliff. It was not high, only about 600 feet, but it was very steep. Reefs were everywhere at the bottom of the cliff. Waves splashed against the reefs and the cliff, splashing water everywhere. Jiang Qiling. Luli saw a person on the cliff, a girl in a red dress. She was sitting on the cliff, floating in the air with her bare feet. The wind was strong. Her red dress was fluttering in the wind. Every now and then, the dress would roll up, revealing her calves. She didn't comb her hair today. It was just hanging on the back of her head, and it was dancing in the wind as well. Jiang Qiling gazed into the distance. She had no idea that a boat was flying towards her. Her eyes were blank, as if her soul had been taken away. Jiang Qiling's lips were red like flames. Her skin was as fair as Bai Qiuxue and Bai Xiaoshuang. Therefore, her red lips were eye-catching, flirtatious and sexy. She was holding a goblet of bloody rose in one hand. Under the glow of the sunset, her beauty was breathtaking. Luli didn't say anything. He looked at the girl on the cliff, feeling sorry for her. He felt, this girl was the only one left in the world. She was so lonely, as if she had been abandoned by the world. Jiang Hong wanted to say something, but Luli waved his hand. He just stood there, looking at Jiang Qiling from a distance of hundreds of feet. Jiang Qiling had no idea that someone was here. She just sat there in a daze, feeling sad. As time went on, it was getting darker. Jiang Qiling was shrouded in the darkness. She didn't move. She just sat there in the darkness, becoming one with it. Luli couldn't wait any longer. He cleared his throat and said, Lady Qi, don't you think it's boring to drink alone? Do you want me to go to the Lake of Delicacy with you? Buzzing, Jiang Qiling's eyes lit up, glistening like fireflies in the night sky. She looked down and saw a man in a cyan robe standing on the boat. She put on a bright smile. Her teeth were so white that they were eye-catching. Whoosh! Jiang Qiling slapped on the cliff wall and flew down to the boat like a fire phoenix. But 2 people were faster than her. They came down from the sky like sharp swords. Their killing intent enveloped Luli and the others. They are my friends. Piss off. Jiang Qiling glared at them. She was filled with killing intent like a goddess of death. The 2 of them stopped in midair and went back to the cliff wall. Jiang Qiling came down and stood next to Luli. Her empty eyes were now filled with a glow of life. Her foxy eyes were like crescent moons and her face was covered with a sweet smile. She seemed to have come back to life. Sorry. Chapter 423. Luli, how come you are here? Do you miss me after not seeing me for a while? Jiang Qiling tilted her head and asked Luli, not caring that Jiang Hong and Mingyu were here. Yes. Luli felt sorry for Jiang Qiling when he saw how lonely she was. He patted her hair out of instinct and said, I heard that you failed to reach the Noble Lord realm and you were injured? I am here to see you. I am relieved to see that you are so lively and you can drink. Luli patted her hair subconsciously as if she was his sister. But the smile on Jiang Qiling's face froze and she froze. Then, she didn't move away. Her foxy eyes became more curved and she smiled again. She twitched her pretty nose and said, I am too impatient and careless. When I am healed, I will try again. I will reach the Noble Lord realm for sure. Take it easy. Luli said with a light smile, cultivation is like eating. You will be stuffed if you eat too much. You must eat bit by bit. You are still young. As long as you work hard, you will stand at the peak of the Central Plains. Ha ha! Jiang Qiling became more energetic and excited after Luli came. She stuck her tongue out and said, Come, let's go to the Pavilion of Fairies with me. Let's have a drink. Jiang Hong stopped her and said, Lady, that is your boudoir. You cannot bring any man in. If the family patriarch knows, Jiang Hong sighed and said it was troublesome because he found out that Jiang Qiling had fallen in love with Lu Li. If Lu Li were not exiled from the Lu family, this might be a happy ending. But Lu Li was abandoned by the Lu family. If he were to be with Jiang Qiling's father would be furious. Jiang family patriarch only had one daughter. Either she didn't marry Lu Li or she would marry a disciple of one of the 12 royal families, one of the most famous young masters of the family. Lu Li was an abandoned son. Marrying Lu Li would not only make Jiang Qiling a laughingstock, but also upset Lu Zhengtan. It would also arouse Lu Zhengtan's dissatisfaction. At that time, the good relationship between the Lu family and the Jiang family would be destroyed. It was fine for Jiang Qiling to see Lu Li since they were just friends. But if she brought Lu Li to her boudoir, the Jiang family patriarch would hear about it. By then, Jiang Qiling would be fine, but Lu Li would be doomed. Lu Li understood the seriousness of the matter. He nodded and said, The lake of delicacy is nice. Jiang Hong, go and get some food and wine. I will go to the lake of delicacy with your lady. Jiang Qiling nodded since Lu Li said so. Jiang Hong hurriedly steered the boat towards the island. He disembarked the boat and made arrangement. Soon, a maid came up with wine and dishes. Jiang Hong got another boat and invited Ming Yu to it. Lu Li and Jiang Qiling could take another boat by themselves. He knew his miss too well. If he was an eyesore at the side, she might just kick him down. The boat moved slowly. The cabin was filled with food and wine. The windows on both sides were open, and one could see the rippling lake water outside. The lake breeze blew gently, bringing with it a trace of coolness, making people feel very comfortable. The food was good and the wine was bloody rose. Lu Li felt like he was on fire after he drank it. But he liked the taste after a while. A man should ride the most handsome horse, drink the strongest wine, sleep with the most beautiful women and kill the most detestable people. This was the way to live a happy life. Only in this way could he not waste his trip to this world. Jiang Qiling said nothing. She poured some wine for Lu Li and stared at him with a smile on her face. It was as if Lu Li was a beauty that she could never get tired of. I will be honest with you. Lu Li didn't have time to fool around with Jiang Qiling. He said with embarrassment, I am here to ask you to save my life. Alas! I am a man and I am ashamed to ask you, a lady, for help. Lu Li, it is rare for you to ask someone for help. Jiang Qiling was surprised. Lu Li was a man of integrity. He wouldn't ask for help unless it was something he could overcome. Lu Li touched his nose and said, A human sovereign realm warrior has his eyes on me. If he is at the noble lord realm, I can try. But if it is a human sovereign realm warrior, there is nothing I can do. Human sovereign realm warrior? Jiang Qiling rolled her eyes. Her eyes were like ripples in a lake, very beautiful. She didn't know what was going on outside, but she asked after some guesses. Is it the Lu family? The Song family? The Palace of Gods? Jiang Qiling was smart enough to know that Lu Li only offended the Lu family, the Song family and the Palace of Gods. Families at the northern central plains wouldn't make trouble for Lu Li. Lu Li gave her a thumbs up. Then he explained the situation and added, Lady Qi, I have nobody to help me now. I have to ask you to help me find the Song family patriarch. If you can't do it, then help me stall for half a year. After half a year, even if the Song family patriarch comes to the northern desert, I will be able to fight back. The clan patriarch and the patriarchs of the mammoth race should be here soon. By then, Lu Li could prepare to attack the deserted world. If everything went well, he could use the human sovereign realm warrior of the Titan race. By then, even if the Song family patriarch came to the northern desert, Lu Li would be able to fight back. Jiang Qiling was surprised. In half a year, Lu Li could stop a warrior of the human sovereign realm? She looked at Lu Li with doubt but didn't ask. After a moment of silence, she said, Lu Li, I cannot promise that I will help you kill the Song family patriarch. I can only say that I will try my best. Lu Li felt touched. He knew that Jiang Qiling didn't have much power despite her identity and status. The power was in the hands of the family patriarch, Jiang Hua, and the patriarchs. How could Jiang Qiling ask Jiang Hua for help? Lu Li looked at Jiang Qiling seriously and said, Lady Qi, I owe you my life. If you need my help in the future, that's enough. Jiang Qiling interrupted him. She rolled her eyes and said, You are a man. Why are you so wishy-washy? I don't need you if I want to do something. Lu Li touched his nose. Jiang Qiling was right. There were many powerful warriors in the Jiang family. With Jiang Qiling's identity and status, she could mobilize many powerful warriors if she wanted to do something. Why would she need Lu Li's help? Lady Qi, here's to you. Lu Li picked up his goblet, clinked it with Jiang Qiling's and drank up. Jiang Qiling glared at him again and said, Lady Qi? Lu Li, if you are going to treat me like an outsider, I will not help you. Call me Qiling or Qier or Linger. Lu Li was speechless. Looking into Jiang Qiling's passionate eyes, he felt embarrassed and shy. He forced a smile and said, Okay, I will call you Qiling from now on. Ha ha, Jiang Qiling smiled with satisfaction. She picked up her goblet and drank up slowly. After drinking, her flame-like lips became even redder, and her face also became slightly red. Under the illumination of the candlelight, her entire body exuded endless charm. Lu Li wanted to leave now that his business was done. He stood up and said, Qiling, I have something to do at the northern desert. I have to go now. I will come back and drink with you some other day. You are leaving so soon? There was a glint of disappointment in her eyes. She bit her lips, looked up and said, Didn't you just say that you would do anything for me if I asked you to? I have something I need you to do now. Lu Li pouted. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea. She just said that she could do anything for him, and now she changed her mind. But what could he do now that Jiang Qiling had said so? He forced himself to say, Okay, tell me. If I can do it, I will do it. Of course you can. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.